Good evening. I'm calling to order the February 3rd, 2026 meeting of the Southborough Select Board. The first item on the agenda is public comment, and this is an opportunity for members of the public to wish to comment on an item that's not on our posted agenda to do so. We keep comments to 3 minutes, and it's not intended as a back and forth or a question and answer, just an opportunity for members of the public to comment. So I don't know if there's anyone here in the room or online that has a public comment. Okay, so then seeing none, our first item on our agenda is to hear from our DPW Superintendent, Bill Cundiff, regarding proposed capital improvement plans relative to our upcoming discussion about 2026 water rates.
Thank you. Good evening. Bill Cundiff, DPW Superintendent. As part of your packet, I had distributed a water capital improvement plan that was prepared by Par Corp. That plan was recommended in the 2020 master plan update that was performed. And we basically proceeded by laying out capital improvements to the water supply system over the next 20 years. Focusing mainly on the coming 5 years and then projecting out 20 years for larger projects that need to get completed. Given that, it's consistent also with the capital plan that I've submitted to the Capital Committee for the annual town meeting. And as water commissioners, I'm now presenting that plan to you. So if you have any questions, we don't have to vote on anything tonight, but if you want to head in a different direction, some of those decisions would be helpful as we work with Matt Abrams in determining what the rate structure will be for the remainder of this year. So that being said, I'll run through the major projects that we have on the horizon. As you know, we have ongoing Lynbrook Road area water main lining project that's going on. The impetus that was driving that project are two things. Number one, the age and rank of that water main in that area. That scored second, that section of pipe scored second in our evaluation to be replaced within the town. So that's why we've focused on that. It's asbestos cement pipe, and the plan is to line that pipe so that it'll give it more strength and protect the water from the asbestos cement. That project is a $1.5 million project, which we did acquire an MWRA 10-year loan at zero interest for. The next one is the water loop project between Fisher and Presidential Estates. Currently, Fisher Road has a dead-end water line. Presidential Estates has a dead-end water line. It's actually a loop, but it's essentially a dead end as it comes off of Sears Road and connects back to Sears Road. There's only, several hundred feet between the two pipes, but there is a railroad track that is in between the two pipes, so that's where the cost comes in on this. The project will improve water quality and efficiency of the system. It will improve pressures, and the cost of that project is a $1.1 million project. We're anticipating submitting for the MWRA program under that one as well, and that's a 10-year zero interest project. The next project is Terra Road tank improvements. In FY27, we're looking for $50,000 to prepare bid documents for the improvements. The project cost would be incurred in FY28, and that would be $700,000. This project is a requirement as a result of a sanitary survey that was performed by the DEP recently, and they're mandating that that be performed. So that's why it's in the plan. The next project we do have on the horizon is, and this is more of a discussion, and this is one of the items I'm looking for to the board to get, their preference on. It's smart meter implementation. Smart meters, well, let me start with, and if you look at your packet, what I handed out on the third page, please. The numbers on this chart are from FY25, and I'll just quickly run through them. The top section of the chart goes through the total water that we were charged from the MWRA, and that was 404 million gallons for FY25. The total water that Southborough customers purchased that we billed for is 292 million gallons. That's a difference of 111 million gallons that was unbilled for FY25. That's a 27% of the water that we've purchased that we were unable to bill for. So the reason that we have what we call unaccounted for water, are a number of things, mainly leaks. We do have some minor usage that the municipality uses between the fire department, street sweeping, hydrant flushing, and a number of other municipal uses that we just don't bill for. We also had a leak detection that we hired an outside firm to go through our entire town-wide system, and they identified 58.8 million gallons. That's a difference of 52.7 million gallons that we don't have a handle on, basically. In my conversations with MWRA, 10%, up to 10% is a reasonable number for unaccounted water. That means 40 million gallons. So there's a 12.2 million gallons that were past that 10% number. So taking our cost for that FY25 purchase of water from MWRA and the cost to operate the pumps, we're looking at about $4,000 per million gallons. That means if we go with just the 12.2, that's beyond the 10%, we're losing $50,000 a year on unaccounted water. Or if we think we can acquire up to the full 52.7 million gallons, that's $217,000 a year, just to put it in monetary value. So the idea, back to smart meters, the idea of the smart meters is not only for customer convenience. The customer would have an app on their phone that they could see if their consumption is going up, and they could monitor their own usage. And if they had extenuating circumstances, if there was a leak in their home system, they would be notified on the app. Likewise, the municipality would also benefit, because not only do those smart meters monitor the customer's usage, it also monitors the usage in the system, and it will tell us if there's excessive leaks, or it will identify locations where there's leaks. So we can reduce our unaccounted for water. Of course, we'd still have to go out and maintain the system, but that's to be expected. So I'm not 100% sold on doing that yet, but I felt it was necessary to bring it up for discussion and information. So you can see in FY27, we carried $70,000 for smart meters. That would allow us to do a system-wide evaluation, prepare bid documents, and also do an evaluation on, what I did a very rough and dirty cost analysis. It would give us a payback period too. So next year we would have better idea on whether or not we want to take the next step with implementation of that.
Okay, so could you just explain that last part again? So you're looking for our guidance about just whether to do fund like not the whole project, but just a study of it?
FY27 is, it's two things. We put in for $70,000 on that capital item.
Yeah.
That includes an evaluation of the system as well as bid document, or RFP preparation.
Okay,
Request for proposals. Yeah,
all right.
To install the smart meters.
correct.
Yeah.
Which would happen in FY '28 if it was feasible.
Are there other towns that you know that have done this? And
Yeah, I know Northbridge has it. I'd have to do a survey of town, and I'm sure we would do that as
Okay.
part of this.
Are these point-of-use meters? And just, in other words, they're sitting in somebody's basement,
They would be swapped out for the current meters that you have in your basement,
well,
yes.
I don't have one, but.
Right,
Okay, and then there's some sort of RF transmission back to the mothership to say,
that's correct.
okay, is this Itron by any chance?
I'm
This-
not
well,
sure.
I looked at this market once, a long
Yeah,
time
no.
ago in another life. So then, actually, the actual swapping out of meters would be a substantial undertaking.
That's the bulk of the cost, I think, with the program. That's the FY '28 number that you see there.
I think National Grid just did this with a whole slew of electric meters. They
They
took
did.
out what you had and put in the wireless ones.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't, maybe I'm missing something, I don't see the FY '28 number.
So if you look on the memo,
Oh, I'm
First
sorry.
page
Yep,
of the memo,
yep,
under that
okay.
paragraph.
Yes, okay. Given that, we are, I'm surprised that we are losing that much water, but,
I
maybe
am
your
too.
side- Yeah, but, do we monitor water usage or water flows at any place other than the end user?
no, we don't have intermediate pits, metering pits, or anything like that, no.
Okay. So you don't know, your guess is, it's either we're not billing for all of the water that's used, or,
Well, I'll tell you, we are not.
well, I mean, I'm sorry, we're not billing for all of the water that our customers are using.
Right, right.
But our customers are absorbing the charge because we're still, this money that's being wasted is part of the water rate.
Well, I understand we're getting,
So they're paying for it.
well, but the people who may be using the water may not be paying
Well, that's
for
true
it.
too. It's
Okay,
not necessarily matching the problem with the,
yeah. Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Marguerite?
I think it sounds like a great idea.
that's your question?
How to pay for it, that's another thing, but
I got two questions here.
Can I go next since I'm?
Yeah.
So, Bill, hard to answer this, but more likely than not, that the smart meters would detect the problem?
It would likely detect the lion's share of the problem, the coverage between each home and the meter in each home. The distance in the system is only several hundred feet, so house after house, you'd cover the vast majority of the water system.
How long have we been aware that we are losing water?
I know that this has been an ongoing issue for the town for a number of years. I haven't traced it back, but I do know it's got a pattern, a history, yes.
All right, so all you really need for us for fiscal year '27 is to go ahead to spend the feasibility money.
Correct.
Okay.
Tim?
Is there any reason not just to jump into the solution if we're gonna spend 6% to do the study? Is there anything that we have to do within the study to start to do this? Or could we just
Ma-
use your knowledge now to move forward and save 70 grand?
Yeah, no, you can't just go out in the field and start replacing meters. It has to be a design-type approach. Will we have dead spots where, I think these things work off of cell towers, depending on the technology that you
Yeah.
use. And
I'd be happy to help you with that, because I know this area well.
And so there's an evaluation of what makes sense where, and if we have dead zones, we may have to put repeaters or things like that into the system. So it's a design. And then preparing the bid documents or request for proposals would be the next step.
Would we want to do metering in other places as well? I see that this 58 million gallon leak detection, would we have found that quicker?
No, the leak detection is a regulatory requirement with the MWRA that we have to do every 2 years. We do it annually because our system has an issue. So we want to detect leaks quickly and deal with them quickly.
Okay, so we're expecting to continue having a 58 million gallon leak within the system?
Until we locate it, yeah.
Okay,
And
so
it's
it's
not
just-
one leak, it's likely a number of things.
Okay, so we haven't found that yet. We just know that we are losing.
Correct,
We have confidence that that's the amount we're losing, but we don't know where the leaks are.
correct.
So could that number be higher?
That's a pretty good number, I think. That's pretty representative of what we're looking at this point. Yeah, I mean, so we hire a company, in this last time, we hired a company called Prowler. They give us a report on their findings for the leaks. And interestingly, they don't even locate all the leaks. You know, we've had situations this past year after that study was done where new leaks were uncovered that have been my understanding, that have been going on for 10 years.
So how do we have confidence in that number? Like, how is this study performed, and how do we not expect that number to be higher and the 10% usage that or the 12 million gallons that we're losing not to be part of the larger leak problem?
Well, it's simple balance of, it's a water balance equation, basically. We know what we're being billed, we know what we're billing. That gives us an unknown amount of water, and then we try pulling that apart and determining what constitutes that number. And you get that down as low as possible, and that's the 12 million gallons number is probably the worst-case scenario for implementing this system. I think we'll be more likely in the order of, I'd like to think we could get down to probably 6 or 8% anyway. So that would equate to probably 100 to 150,000 a year, I'm thinking.
I mean, my concern today is that the leak could be higher, and then, we do the metering at 1.5 million, and we find out that we have more leaks than we thought, which isn't necessarily a bad way to go about doing it, but we did spend 1.5 million thinking that was a solution versus not. So that's my general concern. I'd almost rather see metering or whatever level of metering we could do on the larger system to identify where we expect more leakage, and, if that's something that we could do instead of the meters first, but that's just, I don't know if that's possible or not.
There are things you can do in advance of that. There's devices you can put on your hydrants, and we could put as many out there as many hydrants we have, or we could implement it over a number of years and
Yeah.
rotate the locations of these.
It would almost seem like that might be a better approach than going straight to the final mile.
Right.
Knowing that we have such a massive leak anyway in that area, it might help with that. But that's just my thought today, is like, you should start closer to the source if we can.
Right.
At least that's my current approach. And then the presidential water loop, you said before that we punted this about 10 years. What's the risk of punting it another 10 years?
I mean, it's not so much that there's a risk, it's an improvement. It's a system improvement that's been planned as part of the master plan.
Okay.
And you've got it on the zero, this is a MWRA 10-year 0%
Correct.
slow.
Yeah, 110,000 a year for 10 years.
Correct.
So Bill, Matt is coming, so Matt's going to be working with you the next couple weeks, right?
That's correct.
And he's coming to our meeting on the 24th, is that right, Andrew?
That's a good question. Is he coming to I thought that the
We only had 2 meetings scheduled,
We
so
have
he was,
2 in February. We would like to hit I'm sorry, this is your first meeting in February. So, yeah, we have to make the second meeting.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right,
And then we're going to actually try to set the rates on the 24th, right?
yep.
So what do you need from us tonight in order for Matt to be ready to
If
come
you
in front of
think,
us?
for example, if you think smart meters are not a direction we want to look at, that would remove the 70,000 and the 1.5 million implementation from his analysis.
I just don't, I looked at his work a lot, but I can't remember how he factors in, the future debt into current rates. So I don't know what the impact of that $1.5 million would have in the rate setting on the 24th. The 70 would.
It affects it because he does map out the next number of years, and he tries to maintain a retained earnings balance of 20%. So that
Okay, year after year.
fluctuates. That's right.
So it sounds like we've got to make a decision tonight to give you the advice as far as what to tell him to work with if he's really going to
Well,
be
this
ready
is
to come
gonna-
forth.
Okay, so the 70,000, that seems like a fairly modest amount. We'd see that reflected in the FY '27 rates that we then vote on at the next meeting. And then we would, between that decision and then the decision in February 2027, we would know what the feasibility study suggests, right?
Correct.
Okay, so,
Okay, but Andrew, what he
Yep.
just said was that $1.5 million does
okay,
impact this year's rates also. It's not just next year, it's this year's rate. So that's why
Correct.
he's asking for a decision. Do we want to go forward with these smart meters
well, can I,
tonight?
does it make sense to, can Matt do the numbers to show, like, this is what it would look like if you did
He
this?
can do it both ways.
Let's do it both ways,
Right.
and then see what.
Good idea.
Yeah,
I got one or two more questions. How many meters are there in the system today?
I want to say we have 3,000 some odd customers,
Okay.
low 3,000s.
Low 3,000. That makes perfect sense.
Okay.
How do we read a meter today?
We drive around with a telemetry unit and collect radio
Okay.
readings
4 times a year.
4 times a year.
So there's some modest savings from this, although
Correct.
it's not the,
Modest savings for what?
well, you're no longer going to have somebody driving around pinging people's meters, and there's always
That's
one or
right.
two that you don't get the data from, and you got to go back. And
That's right.
yeah, so there's a modest savings there. But-
So since Al, this really is his area, why don't we just say do it both ways for now? And then Al can ask any other questions between now and the 24th and kind of lead the discussion on the 24th as far as what he thinks we should do as far as saying yes or no.
That sounds
So-
great.
I had a question for you. Is the amount of water being lost over time, have you got a comparison with various years? Is it getting better or worse?
I can get that. I can get that. It's been pretty consistent from the data I've looked at, which isn't back too far,
All
maybe
right.
5 years. So,
okay, so then before we kind of wrap this up, this gentleman, and if you want to come to the podium and say your name and address.
Good evening. This is Jim Waddell. I live at 21 Darlene Drive. I just had a couple of basic questions. Has the town treasurer taken a look at the numbers that you're presenting? In other words, the normal process that I'm used to is that there's a financial person that would take a look at them and verify all the numbers. The second question is, when we bid things out and take a look at the meters and stuff like that, do we have a process of multiple bids, and is that independently looked at by a separate person? So those are my two questions. Thank you.
so the first question, does the town treasurer or somebody in town look at the numbers? We go to a number of committees, like I've shared these numbers with the capital committee and the select board, and they're scrutinized. We answer questions. I also work with my consultants on these numbers as well as our own data in-house.
Yeah, but I asked specifically about the treasurer, right? In other words, the financial person is usually the independent person in town that's responsible for signing off on the analysis that's put together, so that you have an independent person that understands the numbers and has gone through with you and validated them. Is there a process to do that here? or
So,
no?
so we're at the decision level process on which way to proceed. We have not yet. What we do is if the board, the water commissioners, believe that this is something that we want to pursue, we then do the study, and then we would work with Brian on laying out the plan for payment or implementation, or if it's an MWRA zero.
But the
interest,
decision then is already made,
on which direction we're headed, correct?
so what's the point? Why wouldn't we have a financial review up front so that we make the decision before we
Yeah, I
can
think
make the
that-
decision with the financial information ahead of time as opposed to,
I guess, here's how I can contribute to the answer. I just don't think that the private sector analogy that you're using exactly corresponds to a municipal structure.
I
and
understand
you're-
that they're
yeah,
different.
yeah.
I'm asking, but
Brian Ballantyne and Colin McAuliffe, our town accountant, are well aware of the analysis that goes on. They know what the outside water consultant is doing. They see his numbers, so they actually see everything that's being done. They come to the meeting where we set the water rates, and they're part of that meeting, so they are certainly part of this process
okay,
all the way through.
okay. They don't have to sign off on it ahead of time, but they are part of the process and involved.
Select Board sets the rates, so we're the final arbiter or decision maker as far as the rates themselves, but they are certainly part of the process all the way through and ask questions and know what's being proposed.
Okay,
Yeah, beyond that, I want to point out that, we actually have an independent advisory committee that's utterly independent from this organization.
Okay.
They report to town meeting, and they also will
be
review
familiar
these
with all
numbers.
this.
And, several of them have very fine-tooth combs and can occasionally put Mr. Cundiff through the ringer.
Okay,
So there are multiple levels of review that go on. So I think you can be reasonably confident on
Thank
that
you, Al.
front. Now, on to the second part of the
The
question.
second part of the question is, we do have procurement laws that we have to adhere to as a municipality. They're state-level laws, and basically, we prepare a bid document that anybody can submit a proposal on, a bid on, and then we review them, and the most responsive and responsible bidder then gets the award of the contract.
okay.
So Andrew, we still need to go through these and make sure that we say we want them in or out.
Thank you.
Lynbrook is being done. Presidential has been kicked down the road 10 years. We were hoping that Hopkinton was going to pay for it, but I shouldn't count on that for now, for
Yeah,
sure.
and we talked about that at the last meeting.
Yeah, so what do we want Matt to include in his analysis of, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. We already talked about water meters. We know Lynbrook's on the way, so we got 2 here. Do we want these as part of the,
I think we should include them all.
well, we've been told we got to do Terra, right?
That's a regulatory requirement
Yeah.
from the DEP.
And we know we need to do, so I agree that they should all be in there. And then if you could do a with and without as far as the meters,
That's right.
right?
I think we should add a fifth one to this, if it makes sense, the system-wide metering instead of the smart meters at the last mile. I don't know if that's something we could look at as well, but I'm curious about that one.
What do you mean?
Like you said, we could monitor at the fire hydrants or.
Oh,
something like that.
I
So
see.
instead of doing the final
An
piece.
alternative way to find the leaks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm assuming it would be a lot less expensive. So that's what I would imagine you would come back with.
All right.
we'll look into it.
So then we have 2 people who just have, online, have some comments or questions about this, and then we will, I don't think you need a vote from us, you're just
I don't.
looking for some direction. Okay, so first, I think Kristen Laval had her hand up.
Hi, Kristen Laval, 12 Southwood Drive. Andrew, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Just on the water meters, I think the solution is, and, obviously we need to go in the direction of those that can, water meters, we can monitor online, just a matter of timing and budget. But I just want to share personally that we, as a data point, not just to highlight the water that the town is paying for, the citizens, because we don't know who to allocate the bill to. There's a flip side benefit for the consumer too that was touched on, but to the extent we could do some analysis, it might help justify it. I'm actually a household that thanks to the DPW, they noticed on an off billing cycle that my water usage was unusual in comparison. So they just stopped by one day, had no idea what was happening. I think it was early spring. And walked around with me, and then we finally found the source. I had no idea the water was going into the ground, and the resulting bill was significant, like enough that, you know, it was something we had to figure out. So an interesting data point, because I would love to have had the online monitoring, right? That saves time for the DPW, but it saves potentially energy, money, and time for all of us, where we can monitor it more closely. I know it's not easy to tell how much of that water we didn't use at my house versus how much went into the ground, but even if we start with any kind of analysis that shows how many other people are there like me out there in the town, because I heard this and immediately I'm like, sign me up, like I want that meter, because I've been through that experience. But I think that's just another data point to make sure to include in the analysis.
Thank you.
We know we've had some pretty bad leaks too that we've had to deal with on select board level, probably before your time, so.
Yeah.
And then Larry Sandberg.
Hi, Larry Sandberg, 7 Granuale Road. I was just wondering if Mr. Cundiff could explain, I guess I'm missing the point. I have a meter in my house, and it's right at the entrance. And, you know, every drop of water that gets used is measured by that meter. And even the previous speaker said that although she had a leak, she was getting billed, which meant that the meter was actually catching that leak. So I'm just wondering how having a smart meter there is going to improve the situation. I mean, I'm not sure how I could have a leak in my house that isn't already being metered.
So the smart meters would provide a benefit to two parties. It would provide a benefit to the person or the customer by identifying leaks within their own dwelling after the meter. But in addition to that, it identifies leaks in the municipal system before the meter. So, for example, we had someone, I won't say their address, but they had a leak before the meter, but after our main, it was in their service line, and it's been going on for 10 years, and the neighbor ended up complaining about it because it was creating a ponding issue adjacent to their property. So that's something that would have been detected, and we would have saved that 10 years of leaked water.
How?
Oh, so the smart meter can,
Because it would notify
The
the
smart
town
meter
that
can-
you have an excess usage, you have a leak prior to the meter.
We can cover this offline.
All right. I think we've got this topic covered then, right? Okay. So, Jim, do you have anything else to say, Bill, before we move
Nope.
to
Nope.
Jim Hagerty?
Thank you.
Thank
Okay.
Good to see everybody.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we'll see you at the next
Next
meeting.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Come on up. Absolutely, that makes sense.
Hello there. Thank you.
Alrighty. Is this different from the, what was it? Okay.
Good evening, Jim Hagerty, Town Clerk. The form that I just handed out to you includes a line for kennel licenses, which I had neglected to add on the other line. That's the only change in it.
What is it?
Kennel license?
Kennel licenses under dogs, the last two lines down there.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and that's actually mandated by the state that we have kennel licenses. Anyway, the gist of it is, this is a request for you to raise fees that we charge for various services down in the clerk's office, and it's your authority to set these fees. We've done a survey of several surrounding communities to make sure these increases are reasonable. Let me go to my handy-dandy list here. I surveyed fees in Westboro, Northborough, Hudson, Hopkinton, and Grafton, and none of these fees are out of whack. The proposed fees, the middle column, current on the right. We do things a little differently downstairs. And for the past, we haven't raised our fees in 8+ years, maybe, okay? And in terms of the amount of revenue we brought in the past couple of years, it's pretty much constant. It's 28.6 in fiscal '25 and 28.4 in fiscal '24. And this should raise.
Do it again, say it again.
28,000 per the deposits to Brian, 28,595 in fiscal '25 and 28,389 in fiscal '24. I expect that this will increase our fees somewhere in the order of $6,000 to $7,000. Okay?
67,000?
6 or 7.
$6,000 to $7,000.
Oh, 627,
Yeah.
okay.
So the big change is on the certified documents. To be candid with you, I set these rates myself 9 years ago, and I didn't have the authority to do it. It's not the only thing I've just done with common sense. And I have to tell
So
you,
the people, are they able to refund then for all the?
no, but if I go to jail, visit me, okay? Every other town, I'm not aware of any other town in Massachusetts that charges a sliding rate for copies. They charge $10, $15, $20 a copy. And I don't remember this lady's name, but I remember reading her obituary that she had a lengthy battle with breast cancer, like 12 or 14 years. I remember thinking what a terrible thing that was. And she was buried next door. And she had a senior financial position at one of the companies. And a few weeks later, her husband came in and he needed 30 copies of a death certificate. And I remember thinking, this was not a sudden surprise that she passed away. But I remember thinking even a couple of months after she passed, he was sitting in the bench downstairs just staring at his feet, his seal torn up by it. And according to our regulations, or the rules down there, we were supposed to charge him $300 for these copies. And I said, I'm sorry, that's just ridiculous. So I set the rules at $10 a copy for the first and $2 for the extras. And the reason I think that makes a lot of sense for us to do is it is dramatically reduced from what I started with when I started 11 years ago, the number of times people have to come to the counters. When somebody comes in with a child's born, they were buying one birth certificate for 10, coming back in again and again and again. Yeah. Now we're saying, look, give us $20, $25 for 5. You want it to go back again for the rest of your life. It just makes it simpler for everybody. Yep. In terms of what does it cost us to hit 5 buttons versus whatever, it's an extra 6 cents on the seal or 5 cents on the seal, and it's really nothing. It's better easier for everybody, and it's allowed us to reduce how much time we spend on people. So that's the first, raising our fees from $10 to $15 for a copy. I think it's reasonable. The other towns I looked at, most of them charge $15 to $20 a copy. Correcting errors, going from $25 to $50. There's a lot of bureaucracy involved when people make a mistake on a marriage certificate, death certificate. Even if somebody signs it and puts the date as, 2/6/26, the state will reject it. We have to bring it back with February 26. Don't ask me why. And you don't want to know what happens if they sign it in blue ink versus black ink. Just the crazy stuff. The other stuff is pretty straightforward coming down to that. One thing we do very differently than other towns is the marriage intentions. Our fees at $100.
What is marriage? That was my question. What does that mean?
Sure. It's a required 3 forms you have to fill out a minimum of 3 days before you want to get married. It's all required by the state, the same all over the state. We're one of a handful of towns that require people to do this by email with fillable PDFs because it can take you an hour and change every time somebody just drops in, "Hi, I want to fill out the paperwork." It doesn't make a difference where you live. When I got married many years ago, I was living in Natick. My fiance was living in Newton. We filled the paperwork out in Boston. We both worked, and we got married at church in Brookline. Go figure. And the silos, believe it or not, you probably believe this, but there's no record of marriages except in the place you file the paperwork. So you could be living, we've had people literally drove down the Mass Pike on the way to the Cape, decided to get married and fill the paperwork out here. Go figure. But anyway, we charge $100, but we include 5 certified copies as part of the fee. Only one person has ever balked about it. It makes our life much simpler and easier, and we don't have people coming back to the counter and then having to drop everything and do it. Business-related stuff, the business certificates, we raised that from 40 to 50. Some other towns charge that. The certified copies ties into the rate up above. Why do we have business-related certified copies? Somebody wants a copy of the ZBA decision. They want a copy of some other document. It's pretty straightforward. Flammable permits raising from $50 to $100 a unit. Many communities charge that. Poll conduits is a big rise from $150 to $250. You have the poll hearings. The amount of effort that takes place to process to get that up to you is mind-boggling. It takes a lot of time in the select board's office. The mailings that go out to people, Mark's time, your time, our time, billing, it's an incredibly silly, it's just incredibly cumbersome bureaucratic process. I think $250 is very reasonable to charge Eversource and National Grid for that. Dogs down below, we're one of only three cities and towns that will give you a 3-year license if your rabies certificate is good for 3 years. After the first one, it's automatically good for 3. About 15 years ago, the vets decided that the one vaccine you got, they'd only give, certified for 1 year for a puppy to want to make sure they don't have a bad reaction. After that, it's good for 3 years. So I changed the rules that, we also changed through the bylaw that your rabies certificate expires when the dog license expires when the rabies certificate expires. It just makes sense. Raising these from $12 to $15, 24, and so forth. Is this a burden on anybody? I don't think so. I just asked my wife, the cost for our dog is a minimum $750 a year, right? It just is, and that's nothing going wrong.
If you're lucky.
What?
If you're lucky.
Well, I'm saying exactly. If you're not going to the vet, just the food and everything else, so that's not that big a deal. No charge for ADA service dogs. The fines, keep these the same, 25 and 50. Honestly, I've just struggled with, it's the same people we see again and again and again. When I started here, 81 or 83% of the people didn't pay until they had fines. It's because we weren't telling people ahead of time, basically. We changed that. Now the vet sends you a reminder before the dog is due anyway, because they want to get your business. We send you notice out 30 days in advance. If you're overdue, we send a second notice out to it, and then we assess a fine 2 weeks after that if you're not done. Wait 30 days. By the way, before we issue the fine, the animal control officer calls you to say, hey, you're overdue. If you still don't respond, we issue the fine. We wait 30 more days. Animal control calls us a second time, then we issue the fine. It just is what it is. I've even wondered myself whether if we reduce the fine, would that cost somebody to pay earlier? And it's just not. It's just how some folks run their lives. It just is what it is. Kennels are required by the state. If you have 4 or more dogs, you're required to get a kennel license because of something called Ollie's Law that went into effect last year. We charge $100 for that, regardless of how many dogs you have between 4 to 9. The reason for that fee is because the animal control officer has to visit you every year and inspect the premises. So I think that's a reasonable fee. With the same rate we had before. In other towns, it varies. Some charge only $25, some charge the same amount. If you have 10 or more dogs, $150 fee. There are only 3 or 4 places in town that have more than 10 dogs. There are either 7 or 8 people that have 4 to 9 dogs. I just went through them today, and I can't remember if it was 7 or 8. Miscellaneous raffle permits, every other town charges $10. I don't think it makes any sense. Frankly, I used to pay them out of pocket myself when people would come in. Why are we charging the food pantry for?
I agree.
Just crazy. So these are no charge. We have no more than 10 a year. They're all charities in town. There's nobody from outside.
I agree. They're all their friends of this and that doing,
Yeah, just leave
begging
them alone.
for money, so every penny they can keep is helpful.
Residency certificates, occasionally people need paperwork for that. The street list, the nosy book, as it's colloquially known, we're required to produce one by the state. $12 is our cost to print that right now, to go outside to a vendor print, and I've checked, it's actually still cheaper to go outside to the vendor. Yet we have it available electronically for free. When people come to the counter, I said, I have to charge you $12 because that's our cost, but if you want it for free, I can email it to you. So that's pretty much it. There's nothing extraordinary on this. Al, just to switch to the dogs for a second, we don't have a service to sell these online yet because there's no vendor that can meet our criteria with the rabies certificates and the rest of it. So we are working to create our own page through Square to allow people to buy these online and the vitals online, and we'll be able to add the fees onto that. So I quoted you $6,000 to $7,000. If we go to that online, we'll be able to get back the credit card fees as well for the people. So we're just waiting for verification from the bank right now on the test. We hope to have that up within the next 2 weeks. So that should be a plus for people as well. Pretty straightforward, and I don't see any controversies in here. Just ask that you guys would approve this, and I'd like to make this effective March the 1st, if you could, please.
Any discussion? I don't really have any questions about it.
No, but I appreciate your effort to keep this up to date and everything you do. It's really amazing.
Will do, okay. All right. Thank you very much.
You want to take a vote?
Yes, please.
I move that the board approve the schedule of fees, proposed fees that our town clerk submitted.
A
And what,
second,
you want them effective,
Effective March 1st.
March 1st,
effective March 1st, 2026?
second.
All those in favor? Thanks, Jim.
Thanks very much.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
So moving on to Chair's report, I have 3 things to report on. One just happened recently. So first, update on sidewalk projects. I attended the January 26th meeting of the Planning Board, which was a hearing to consider the removal of trees for the sidewalk projects on Woodland Road, Richards Road, Parkerville Road, and Oak Hill Road. And I'm pleased that I don't think any trees that DPW had asked to take down for the project they were all approved, right? There are, however, there were a handful of trees on Richards Road where someone objected to taking them down to the tree warden. And so this is in our consent agenda. Because there was an objection under, I can't honestly tell you whether it's a town code or state law or that the select board should, Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 87, Section 4, that we should vote on whether the trees should be removed. The recommendation of the tree warden is that the trees should be removed. So overall, I think that that's great, and it was also interesting to see how far along, this sidewalk project really is, and it's starting to get people,
it's actually
aware of that it's
Finally.
happening, because there were bright magenta signs on the trees along where the sidewalk's gonna be.
So Andrew, if we approve what Chris Leroy is recommending as far as those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trees, then we are basically approving his decision, right? Or the
Correct.
planning board decision? Okay.
Yes, okay. Very brief update on the budget summit that we had on Saturday, January 24th. That's the annual all-day meeting we have with the advisory committee, where we bring in some of the bigger departments to talk about their budgets. So we're not in a position to really discuss the details of this yet in our budget process, because I think we're so focused on the special town meeting. But, every department's made a, compelling case for its requested budget, but it's a year where it's gonna be difficult to fit everything that everyone wants into the levy limit. So, want to make everyone aware that advisory is having a meeting tomorrow evening at 7, and so we posted agenda of the select board in case a quorum of the select board members want to attend tomorrow's meeting. And then at our February 28th meeting, we'll take up the consideration of the budget again, and hopefully we'll have some more updated information on that. And then my third update, I got a call just before the meeting from our state representative, Kate Donahue, about a event that's happening on this Sunday, February 8th, 2 to 4, so it's right before the Super Bowl. It's Massachusetts 250, the organization that's celebrating the 250th anniversary of Massachusetts. There's a statewide celebration of the Henry Knox Trail, and she sent me some photos of, I guess, a week or two prior, some other towns along the trail, including, I think, maybe Northborough. Worcester had an event in Worcester where there was a ceremony and presentation to people and some remarks. So I don't know how we had not heard about this until today, but so I'm doing this to publicizing it, and they want a representative of the town to go and accept a little dedication. So they want to know right now. So I just asked Kevin Miller, who I thought would be an excellent person to speak on our behalf. So he'll be there. I'm going to go just because it sounds like it's fun. So it is at the Village Hall on Framingham Green, Sunday from 2 to 4. So it's to commemorate the Henry Knox Trail and leading up to Evacuation Day, et cetera, et cetera. All right, that's all I've got under Chair's report. I don't know if anyone has anything under Members' report.
Take any actions on the trees?
Yeah, that's on the consent agenda. Any members' reports?
Well, can I just add that we've got official approval to have the drone show on St. Mark's Field as of a couple hours ago?
Okay, that's great,
All right, so they were excited.
and as are we. Again, this is the drone show on January 1st, 2027, to begin to celebrate the 300th anniversary of Southborough. All right, Mark?
And if anyone is interested in seeing more information about the drone show, there's a 15 to 20-minute discussion of it, the last tricentennial, complete with pictures and an understanding of what it's going to look like. And it's, in all seriousness, I think it's going to be pretty neat, you know, with what they've got planned. Just a couple of quick hitting items. First of all, I just wanted to officially welcome Chris Cremans to the Select Board office in the Business Administrator position. He has been here just under a month and is starting to acclimate himself very well. I also want to thank Vanessa, who has been mentoring him and helping to get him acclimated on our side of the world. Brian Ballantyne and David Beery have been doing the same on the treasurer's side. And he's really, starting to really make a difference, I think, in our office. So just wanted to acknowledge that. MMA annual meeting was held 22nd, 23rd, 24th of January. I did see Mr. Dennington in there. Taylor West was in. We had a bunch of our people that we deal with. We had Labor Council. Town Council was in there, some new vendors that we're working with. Did get to hear the governor speak. She didn't have a lot in her goodie bag, but, you know, some years are like that, and I think with the uncertainty at the federal level, how the funding is going to work is making them a little uncertain at the state level. Vanessa also, she did moderate a session on amongst all things civility. You know, in public discourse, so I think that was timely. It was an overflow session, and I did also run into Andrew Pfaff, and we sat through a sobering session on health insurance, and so it was interesting to hear that conversation.
You mind if I just
Sure.
make one comment apropos of that? So Mark and I were joking at the meeting, a little bit of the meeting is a little bit of a therapy session because there's a lot of, you know, you have people who work for towns all over the state, and this session about, you know, the challenges of health insurance premiums. So I just want to emphasize that it really hits home of, you think we're not by any means the only town that faces these situations. And you heard a couple town managers from towns in Western Massachusetts that have been hit, you know, even harder than this. So I just want to emphasize that, you know, it really shows that a lot of the fiscal challenges that we face are, every town faces them.
It is somewhat cathartic going to these meetings because you think that your situation is the absolute worst. And when you come out of there, you realize, you know, I think Sam Stivers had said it best when he went to a meeting with other select board members at an MMA event when he got elected. And he said, you know, he says, I talked to some people today and they've got real problems. He says, we're doing pretty well. You know, so by comparison, you know, it does make you feel a little bit better.
Misery loves company.
Yeah. One Stop Grant, we're back in the cycle again. They now have opened for the new season. They're accepting expressions of interest. It's the one-page document, fairly simple to fill out. You know, you could submit that and they will provide you feedback. You know, we'll be sending something out over the next couple of days, asking people for ideas, for thoughts. Board members have things, you know, I know you know, we did get a small award finally, yay, but a lot of the big things we were looking for, we didn't. We have gotten comments back on those. There may be things that we do want to resubmit.
And do you know the deadline's coming up for that, for the expressions of interest, or Vanessa, do you know? For expressions of interest? Okay.
Mass Police, the Academy held their graduation recently. We had 2 officers in there, Chris Biondi and Joe DeLuca, who is the son of one of our current sergeants. It is the first time that we will have a father and son duo in the department, in the department's history. So tells me Chief Newell. It was.
Rumor has Biondi was awarded the,
And Biondi was awarded,
sharpshooter?
yeah, I was getting there.
Sorry,
Biondi was
sorry, Mark.
awarded the so-called, Top Gun Award, Top Shot Award for his marksmanship out of his class. And it was nice to see one of our officers get recognized. Great event, a lot of our department attended, a lot of family and friends attended. And then the following morning, that was last Thursday, on Friday morning at 8 a.m., the officers were sworn in and begun their road training. So in another 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, they will then be ready for full duty. So we welcome them aboard. And again, I was glad to be part of that. Andrew and Marguerite were able to attend on Friday morning, so there was representation from the board. And finally, on a kind of this is the neatest thing, I know Vanessa sent something out last week. Mass DOT, they do a snowplow naming contest every year, and they allow school kids to submit names of what they want to name the snowplows. And some of them are fun and everything in that, but Trottier was selected. One of the names that was submitted this year that was picked for name of snowplow was from Trottier, and the name that won was Clear Apathra. I thought that was excellent.
It's a good one.
You know, it's not Al's making the dad joke face. No, I thought it was really neat and innovative and
I think
everything.
it's really,
So they had a brief ceremony at Trottier to recognize the winning submission. And so congratulations to the Trottier students for coming up with that. And, as much as it's be nice to see that plow out there with the name, I really don't want to see the plows out there if we don't have to for the rest of the season. So that's all I have.
All right, thanks. So I think with that, we can move to the consent agenda. Are there any holds on the consent agenda?
I've got a couple of changes on the 20th minutes, and, let's see, 13th, and a couple on the 13th. Minor.
All right. Any other holds? Okay, so is there anyone from the ZBA in the online audience right now? Because I know they had, oh, hi, Doris. All right, sorry. 'Cause I know David
there's
had
no one
also.
online.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I just want to recognize, because I know
Sorry,
that,
Doris.
I don't know if you posted a whole meeting and everything, but all we're really doing is, we've got this under the consent agenda, we're just taking the article that you've worked up and just gonna refer it to the planning board. So this is just an action that we're not gonna debate on it or comment, but just want to acknowledge. Okay, all right. So I move consent agenda items B, C, D, E, and F.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed, okay. Kathy, you had edits to the minutes from January 20th?
I had silly stuff on the 13th, so forget them, they're not even worth talking about. Okay, so on the 20th, line 67, Ms. Cook. Ms. Cook is not the chair of the 5163, Ms. Cook is the treasurer, as always. Line 76, Mr. Hamilton reports that the survey has gone. Al, is this true? The survey went to the town and town employees, right?
Town
The point that was being made is that there was very poor response from the employees. Is that what we were trying to say?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, so that one's fine. Let's see, line 83A, it's health insurance plan. We only have one retiree health insurance plan, so make that a singular. And that should be it, that's it.
Okay, and I actually noticed one other spelling in the January 20th minutes. On line 118 and 120, the last name Meyerson should instead be Majorana, M-A-I-O-R-A-N-A. Anyone else have any edits to the minutes? I move that we approve the January 13, 2026 minutes.
Second?
All those in favor? And I move that we approve the January 20, 2026 minutes as amended.
Second?
All those in favor? Okay, so I think that takes care of the consent agenda. Let me just get my papers lined up here. So before we get to the March 2nd discussion of the special town meeting warrant and the presentation from the Neary Roof Consultant, so the school committee posted for 7:45? Okay. And do we have Socotec in the? Not yet. Okay, all right. I also wanted to let you know that, if they want to show slides as part of this, if there's a way that you can work with Vanessa and get them so that she's got the slides when they come. So that we can just have the whole discussion while school committee's here. Maybe we can just start to talk about some of the other items which are not as time-intensive. So, anyone have any comment on the, I'll just give a brief introduction to the draft letter of support for the transfer of funds from the CPC to the Affordable Housing Trust. When Doug Mance, on behalf of the Affordable Housing Trust, had made a presentation to us last month, he said they would be looking for this letter, so I asked them to put together a draft letter.
I talked to Lisa Braccio in the last couple of days, and she said the CPC's already voted to approve this, and I said, what do you still want the letter? She goes, yeah, go ahead and send it, so we still should send it. But it looks like it's going to go fine.
Okay.
That's what we want to hear, right? We want this done, so,
Yeah.
but they can't hurt. So she said, send it.
Okay, this is nitpicky. It's Scrivener, sort of. Line 3, where it says, Affordable Housing Trust, AHT, in parens, warrant article to transfer community housing funds from the CPA. If you're gonna use initials for Affordable Housing Trust, then is that Community Preservation Act or the Community Preservation Act or the Community Committee? Because it's CPA up here, it's CPC down there, and it's not clear what it is in the first place, so I would just,
Be CPA.
Yeah, I think,
just to make it like clear.
no, I
So
think.
you want
it would-
CPA here?
Well, see, it's transferring the funds from the CPA, which is the Community Preservation Act, and down below, approximately 100,000 would still remain with the CPC, Community Preservation Committee. Isn't it being transferred from the committee, and the committee's keeping some of it?
No, I
committee
think
authorizes
that's
the
actually
transfer.
correct.
I think it is correct.
Okay.
The committee authorizes the transfer, but it's
Yeah.
not,
The funds are
money.
just with them, they,
yep, it's
Yeah,
CPA
spend.
money that they're transferring.
All right, then I would still give, before you just call it CPA, I would put out the first time you use it, the whole thing of what it is.
I also noticed that the letters addressed to town meeting members, or really should just be the community
CPC.
chair of the CPC.
Yep.
Any other changes?
No.
Okay, so I move that the board approve the letter of support for the transfer of funds from the CPC to the Affordable Housing Trust.
Second?
All those in favor? Maybe the next, we'll talk about the proposed zoning amendment to allow banners on utility poles. So I think I mentioned this briefly under the chair's report last meeting. The intent here is the Tricentennial Committee would like to have the opportunity to put up celebratory banners about the tricentennial. And there's a provision in the zoning code right now that doesn't allow that. So people from the Tricentennial Committee alerted me that if you want to have this on the annual town meeting warrant and have the planning board hearing process, you got to do it like now. So what we put together, and Vanessa was the laboring oar in putting together this first draft. She worked with Don Morris and with Karina Quinn, helped her on this. It's just a draft here, right? And what I would suggest is we vote to refer it to the planning board for their public hearing process. And then it could be put on the docket with all the other articles they're going to work up for the annual town meeting in April. And anyone have any questions about that, or?
I have one.
Yep.
I would suggest striking the sentence that says temporary signs on private property shall be approved by special permit of the ZBA. That really isn't relevant to the topic at hand.
Why is that even on there?
Yeah,
Is there
I had not.
Is there some
no-
places that we think we need them? That's why we've got that on there?
Yeah, who, okay, this has gone back and forth a couple times. Now that I look more closely at that, and I'm. Yeah,
We have
Yeah.
bylaws on the books for permanent and temporary
Yeah.
signs anyway.
okay, Patty?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. And Patty's on the Tricentennial Committee, as I think many of you.
She's the one that's really advocated for this.
Yeah. Okay, so Patty, basically, I know we've been kind of scrambled to put together something here to, between
So in-
regular meetings of the Tricentennial, but just, because I know you wanted to get this started. What we're looking to do is just kind of get this started, right?
I understand that. So the only thing is, I have a draft that, I worked on a draft on behalf of the planning board. Member there did a little AI thing, gave me a draft, and I was editing it when you sent that email the other day that Vanessa was going to put together a draft. So I sent her what I had been working on so far. So when she sent back that, I had concerns that there was no provision for private property. Because as you know, there's 3 aspects of this banner thing that we would like to see move forward. So I know that you and Dawn sat down this afternoon, or not you, Vanessa and Dawn sat down this afternoon, but I have not seen a copy of any changes, and it doesn't appear that that is in the current packet that I'm looking at for tonight's meeting. Right, so I'm not, other than my conversation with Dawn at about 5:30 today, I'm not really quite sure what it is, what's in there. My concern with the original draft was that it excludes, it was only talking about municipal property and excludes any private property. And the way he explained it to me, what they had been working on this afternoon, was that to have any banners on private property, it would have to go, each instance would have to go to the ZBA, which, honestly, it's going to defeat the purpose.
Patty, what private property are you concerned
Kathy,
about?
this goes back to the meeting where you and Ginny and Dawn and I had back in, I think it was early December or late November or something, and we talked about these banners. And so one of the ideas was to have the banners on the utility poles,
Yeah.
which is the thing that Mark was working on. One of the ideas was to have banners that promote specific events that would be on municipal property, such as in front of the townhouse or down along 85 by the transfer station where there's a lot of traffic. The third concept was, which the fundraising group was promoting, was to have banners for the major sponsors. For example, like, Main Street Bank or Falcone Energy or something, to have a branded banner for them that they would put in somewhere on their property or on their building that says, Southborough Tricentennial 1727 to 2027, sponsored in part by their logo.
I forgot about that, so now I remember, okay.
So that's the hiccup here, because the way I interpreted the current draft based on Dawn's conversation with me was that every single sponsor would then have to go and appeal to the ZBA to be allowed to put a banner out on their property. And that's not the purpose. This is all going to be branded by the Tricentennial Committee, by the fundraising committee. So I think the way we had discussed it, Kathy, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that the fundraising group is going to supply this banner to that particular sponsor for them to display. So it's going to brand the Tricentennial throughout town and recognize the large sponsors that we have. So all the banners are going to look the same, basically, except for their individual logos, but then would be on their private property. But by making each one of those businesses then go and file an appeal with the ZBA in order to display that banner, I think you're making too much work out of it.
I
All right,
agree, I
I
agree.
now understand. I truly had forgotten about that part of the conversation, so now
Yeah,
I understand.
yeah.
So here's my suggestion, because I don't want to spend too much time on it. If we refer this to the planning board, then all the detailed debate about marking it up can occur at the planning board. So I agree with Al. Let's take out the sentence that says temporary signs on private property shall be approved by special permit from the zoning board. Are people comfortable with that?
Well, then what would Falcone do? He'd have a right to put it up? It's his property?
We would just think about that later during the public hearing
planning board
process
deal with
before
it.
the planning board.
I
don't
think
have
the
a-
planning board, frankly,
Yeah.
is really amenable to discussing this and working out something that's going to benefit the town for the tricentennial,
Yeah.
but not make a wide-open policy that is going to bite us in the butt. So if you are willing to just pass this along and let the planning board decide that, I'm happy to, work with them or have the tricentennial committee work with them to solve the problem.
Okay, so, again, my suggestion is, let's take out the sentence about temporary signs on private property, and then, are people comfortable with referring this to the planning board?
Yeah.
Okay.
I have one comment, just because it's this is reminiscent of the flag conversation from a couple of years ago. This would not open up anything, and I think Patty mentioned that it wouldn't in her explanation of this. We're not going down that particular path.
That's why there's the sentence, "It is the policy of the town of Southborough that banners attached are not intended as a forum for freedom of expression, but are expressions of official town sentiments."
Okay, I'm happy for it to go through the process. I just want to make sure that we don't open ourselves up to that particular conversation again.
Okay. So with that, I move that we refer this draft zoning amendment regarding temporary signs and banners to the planning board for the hearing process.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Okay, so now, Chelsea, do you have a quorum? And
I do. I don't know if I have anybody online yet.
Laura Kaufman?
Yeah.
And I think that's it.
So I'm calling the Southborough KDA committee to order. 4 out of 5 members are present at 7:45.
Okay. And is Socotec, are they here?
Until May.
Oh, all right, that's right. Oh, that's right. Okay, Mark, are they here?
I don't see anybody, no.
Okay, it's
Andrew Barr.
Russo, right? Andrew.
No.
Okay, I was really hoping to begin with them if we
James
could.
Russo and Andrew Barr.
So someone sent.
Please do start with him if you
Yeah,
can.
so someone sent them the link to the meeting?
Correct.
Okay.
I don't have anybody yet.
Because I think the discussion, here's how I was thinking we should talk about this, so, just as background for the board, I think everyone already knows this, but the Socotec are the consultants that the schools work with to work up a proposal for the Neary roof replacement and also then associated ADA repairs. They made a presentation and presented a proposal at the last meeting, at their meeting in Friday, which I attended. So that informs what is currently our draft Article 4. And then we need to talk about, jointly with the schools committee, the language for the articles, the amounts for the different articles, and also the manner of paying for them. But I think it would really help if we first was able to get Socotec online here to make the presentation, so.
Andrew is here.
Okay,
I think Vanessa just brought him over.
all right. Okay, so you promoted him to panelist? All right, so you want to just, Andrew, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear us?
Okay, yeah, all right, so, I don't know if you can see us, but,
I can see you.
Okay, all right, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so you got a joint meeting here. You can't see in the back room, you have the, school committee and Superintendent Martineau. All right, hi gentlemen. So, do you have slides you want to show us too?
We could pull the, hi, this is Jim Russo with Andy. We could pull some up if you'd like.
Photos, actually, what we have is photos that we had discussed when we met last week, and
With the school committee.
we are with the school committee. I'm trying to, and actually, I want to open up that folder that I have. Sorry for not having all of this ready.
If you want, would it help if we just took a 5-minute recess and then you can get everything loaded up and?
That'd be perfect.
Okay, all right. So maybe we'll just take a quick 5-minute recess? All right, thanks.
Good idea.
Recording
you.
stopped. In progress.
Oh, my.
Okay, Andrew, are you, so you got your slides up, so why don't I hand it over to you to make the presentation? And if you could just give the board a little background about, you know, the assignment you were given and the work product that you've got.
He's muted.
He just has to unmute himself.
Can he hear us?
Unmute.
Okay, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
All right, yeah,
Hello?
and you can see the photos?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
Very good.
Okay. So hi, this is Jim Russo with Andy Barr, and I'll give you some of the background real quickly, and then we'll go through the pictures. So essentially, you have a 30-year-old roof that's 63,000 square feet. It's EPDM, which is commonly referred to as, rubber roofing is what you're mostly familiar with, and it's in a failed state. From the top down, you have rubber membrane, and underneath that, you have 2 layers of rigid board roof insulation, and then underneath that, you have your structural deck, which is gypsum. Can you guys still hear us?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a problem. You can see my screen, but unfortunately, I can't even see my screen. Something's going, we're having a Zoom issue right now. But if you can see the photos, that's the important part.
We can see the first photo. It's a picture of basically standing water on the roof.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
Andy will still try and work on that while I continue to fill you in. So anyways, the products are 30 years old. As you see on this one, the ponding water, that's detrimental to the roofing system. The elongation properties and the tensile strength of the membrane have become compromised, and they're in a failed mode. Seams have opened up, water has entered into the system. The asphalt that has holding the roof insulation down and together, because as I said earlier, there's 2 layers, has failed, and it's unattached in many areas. As a matter of fact, there's 22,000 square feet of unattached roof insulation, and the membrane, which gets glued to the roof insulation, is also unattached in several locations. In addition to that, you have 8,000 linear feet of seams that have failed. And when that happens, obviously, the water gets into the system, and it's a vicious cycle. It just keeps going. There's a bad section over the gymnasium that has had partial blow-off already, and that's the challenge, of course. When you have these situations, high winds attack the roof edge, and so we've made some recommendations to do a quickie repair to hold you over. It's not a long-term fix, it's a short-term at best that'll hold you over so that you can stop the water from penetrating, and more importantly, obviously, so that the roof doesn't blow off. So and then when the membrane loses tensile strength, it's primarily caused by UV, the sun, over 30 years, and ponding water, which you have a significant amount of ponding water throughout the whole roof area. And the membrane stretches, and then tears occur, and we have numerous locations of that happening throughout. So it is in a failed mode, and the recommendation is to replace the roof in its entirety. We've come up with some estimates. So the estimates are in the $3.5 to $4 million range to replace the roof. We've triggered what we believe the ADA, the MAAB regulation, 30% of your building value is 12 million, 30%. So you're going to probably exceed that value with the roof project, which means you'll have to do the MAAB upgrades. We've done a complete study of that, and the estimate right now is in the 2 million plus range to do that. So the present situation is the estimates have been forwarded. We've had discussions in a meeting with the school committee. Now we're having a meeting with you folks. And the next phase of action is to, continue ahead and have discussions about the design effort moving forward and getting pricing. I know you have a special, a March 2nd meeting coming up to have further discussions about that. Andrew, are you able to show any more photos?
I think, have you seen the photos changing as we've been doing
No.
this? No. It's interesting.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, something's going weird. Right on my laptop, Zoom is, I might, if I stop sharing and then share again, I could try that.
My husband would tell you to reboot. It works most of the
I'm
time.
gonna
so-
stop sharing.
No, let's
see.
reboot. You might lose us.
All right, there's,
but-
yeah, there's that. The lighting's horrible here, but let me try sharing again. Where's share screen? Share. Okay, let's try this. Okay. So we're sharing the photos there, right? You can see that?
Yes, we see the same photo we saw before.
Okay, good. That's good.
Hit next.
Next, there we go. There we go.
Yes,
Yeah, so
good.
here's some good examples of this is showing, see how this is a very bumpy roof? That's the insulation which underneath has been curled because it's gotten wet and dry and wet and dry. Some examples of that. This is an example of a tear in the roof, but that's not a tear from people, a contractor or anyone doing work. That's actually just the 30-year-old membrane, which is just starting to fail. What happens is it loses the elasticity, and it gradually it can't stretch the way. So it's very similar, actually, if you had a tire, let's say, which was old, and the rubber dries out, that's exactly what the type of thing that would happen. Here's another example of that. This is an example of seams which are failing, the adhesion in the seams, so water's getting underneath the seams, okay? Here's another example. You can see all of these patches that have been done over the years, which are now the adhesive and in the seams is all failing. This is an example of repairs that have been made. So basically, over time, at one point in time, I believe there was a repair job which stripped in all the seams, but now even that stripping in itself is failing. This shows you the blow off or the partial blow off of the roof. This is the gymnasium roof, which has partially blown off, which we sent recommendation over to put some sandbags in that area and resecure the membrane so that you can get through the winter without any type of worse blow off. You can see that the actual wood blocking is exposed there.
That's the perimeter.
That's the perimeter of the edge of the gymnasium roof, which is higher. An example of how the membrane is just deteriorated over time. And this is just the life of the membrane itself, which it's at end of life, basically. Failed seams, more of the same type of thing. So there's a lot, as you can see, there's a lot of this happening in a lot of locations.
Yeah, like I said earlier, 22,000 square feet, which represents a little over a third of the whole roof area. And it's not in just one location, it's everywhere.
It's a third of the roof all over in lots of different locations. Okay, so. More examples of this. Here's a pretty bad area where it's heaved up. So that's basically the condition of things. And do you have questions at this point in time?
Well, I'm sure there will be questions from the board, but first I wanted to ask Chelsea or Greg, is there any additional information you want to add to that picture there about the roof?
I think it's clear we need a new roof.
I'll just say that, just to clarify something that was said earlier, we did use the rental revolving account $85,000 to contract with Socotec, and that we did go out to bid, and that's how this contract was formed. And this roof was last replaced in 1991, which was a 20-year roof. So we're 15 years past what we were expecting out of this roof. So I think it's way past the time of needing to do this roof. And obviously, it's with the amount that they reference on the amount that needs to be done for the roof, we're going to trigger ADA plus everything else. So
Can I just add to what you just said? The valuation that's being used right now is 1125, so 1126 hasn't been issued yet. So we don't know for sure, it depends on what that value is, so TBD. But more importantly to me is, if we go forward with this on the 3-2 special town meeting and we do it with debt, I don't know if we're gonna go inside or outside the cap, so put that aside for a second. You still won't have the money available to July 1st. How long will this take to be completely replaced? Can you do it in July and August and be ready for the kids to come back? It's going to be longer than that.
So, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
July and August would be aggressive to think you could get it all done. You will get the majority of the roof covering removed and replaced with new insulation. What might remain and stagger into September, and this has happened, we've done it on a number of school projects, is the edge metal. The building will be weather tight, but the edge metal and some of the punch list items may need to be, spill over into the September timeframe. And that can be done at times that are conducive to the, general population of the school. What I mean by that is after school and also on weekends is typically how it's done.
Yeah, the other thing is, obviously, with what's been happening, as you guys know, over the last probably a number of years, it seems that the summer's getting shorter and shorter just because of starting before Labor Day and everything like that. So, and schools are getting bigger and bigger. So it's not uncommon to run over. And what we would do is prioritize the academic areas in particular, get those areas done over the summer for sure. And if it has to run in, particularly in September, for instance, let's say you could do the gym roof that you say, okay, they don't need to use the gym in September, they can go outside and things like that. So we've even have school roof jobs that have been done over even in the winter. So it can be done, is the answer.
Okay, so this is Andrew
Yep.
from the Select Board. If you could speak to the following point that I know you addressed, I think, very well last Friday, was in a situation like this where you're going to be putting on a new roof, but then you're seriously thinking about doing further work to the building, including HVAC work that might involve cutting into the roof that you just installed. How do you deal with that to make sure everything works well in terms of warranties, et cetera?
And this is also something that's not uncommon. The roof, obviously would have a full, most likely a 30-year warranty. And even if a year down, 2 years, 5 years down the road, you did an addition, you changed HVAC things, everything like that, that work would be done by a contractor who would be told basically that any of the flashing work has to be done by a certified roofer, and they would re-inspect the roof at the end. So the short answer is it does not affect your warranty.
Okay, Roger? You have
My comment was going to be to, again, ask one of the fellows to comment on what we talked about in the school committee meeting briefly, which was not just the warranty, but to make sure that the additional work could be done without really negatively affecting the roof. And I think that they put it pretty well at the meeting, so I'm not the one who is going to restate this, but maybe we could hear that again, how you described it.
Yes, right. And any of the new work would be designed with the same types of flashing, same installation as the new roof that you've put on. So there would really be no difference between the new work and you know, and any changes you made to it down the road.
Right, and keep in mind that any interior work that you want to do, you want the roof to be weather tight, watertight, because you're going to replace ceilings and wallboard and painting and carpeting and all that type of thing. You want to make sure that the roof's not going to leak. And so whenever you do a renovation project inside, whether it's your home or a commercial or institutional or educational facility, you make sure that the roof is watertight before you do that.
And you stabilize the building, which is really what needs to be done at this point in time.
So I've got another big picture question, Andrew.
Yep.
Okay, so Andrew Barr,
Yes.
so this is Kathy Cook. So if the ADA is triggered, the $2 million, that work is done, what's the timing of that work? Does anyone have a guess?
Well, typically what happens is, because a lot of times you don't know that you're going to trigger it until you get into these projects.
Yeah.
And then it's, right, until the bids come in. That's the other thing, is it really depends upon how the bids come in. We are seeing pretty competitive numbers lately. In
I understand,
some
but
cases,
just assume for a
20% more.
moment it's triggered. What
Yep.
would be the timing
Yes.
to actually do that work?
The key is starting the design process and doing the work. There is not, honestly, there is not you have to do it immediately at the same time. For instance, MSBA requires that it be done right within or within the next year of their projects. I know this is not MSBA, but it is something you would want to do probably within the next 2-year time frame at the most.
But if you ended up, one of the projects that's on the table, and it may be the more viable ones as far as our choices here, would be to completely renovate that school. And if, let's say, that construction could start the summer of '27,
Yep.
get it approved this fall, get the design done, be ready to go as soon as kids get out of school. So it sounds like you could wait and do the ADA as part of the whole thing, so you wouldn't be so disruptive.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely. Because it makes sense to do it that way, because you're doing other things, you're doing programmatic changes, I mean, all of those type of things, which and they're all be done at the same time. I mean, you know, because it doesn't make sense to go in and just fix some bathrooms if that may not fit within your overall renovation project. But yes, that would be the way to do it.
Okay, Al?
So, I mean, sometimes the universe tells you you don't have a choice, and this is one of those times. Regardless of what we do with our schools, Neary needs to operate as a school for the next 2 years, even if we were to ultimately abandon it. And I think it's pretty clear that the roof isn't going to last that long, and it isn't lasting, it's dead. So we don't have a choice here, and, you know, it's time to simply bite the bullet and do it.
Tim?
I have a question around the current roof is a double membrane. In the quote, there's a single ply membrane for 20 years. What's the thought process around 20 years single ply versus anything else?
So it's a single ply membrane. It's one layer of rubber roofing, not a double layer. And it's 60 mils thick.
That's what's there now.
That's what's
Yeah,
there now.
right.
No, I know. And underneath it is 2 layers of insulation. So the thought process moving forward is to go with a thicker membrane, a 90 mil thick membrane, and then multiple layers of insulation to create what we call tapered insulation to create positive slope to the drain so you do not have ponding water on your roof.
And a 30-year warranty
Right.
on the roof.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Then I might just be seeing the wrong document that says 60 mil, 20-year system. So that might just be what I'm looking at.
Yeah, that's what the existing is, and what we would propose would be to go back with a 30-year 90 mil, which is, there's very little cost difference, and to get the 30-year, and these warranties are full system warranties. You have a leak, you call the manufacturer, and they send somebody out and fix it.
So just to make clear, the document that we have, it's like a, titled Roof Investigation Assessment Estimated Construction Cost. And in the lower right-hand corner for the total project cost for the roof is $4,496,245.
That's with contingencies.
Okay, but then I think what Tim
yeah.
is asking about is if you look on the line items,
Yeah,
under line 075400,
yeah.
roofing and flashing, it says 60 mil adhered.
Yeah, no, that should say 90. That should say 90. That estimate is based upon a 90 mil,
Okay.
30-year.
So the number
Yep.
504 is accurate to a 90
Yes.
mil, 30-year system warranty.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
So then the number we need to put on the warrant for March 2nd sounds like should be $4.5 million.
do you agree?
Yes.
Oh, I'm asking also the school committee.
So
Oh,
But no, we want him to agree too.
for the roof portion, yes.
Okay.
yes.
I think there's a caveat there.
This is the idea.
Yep, I get you. Okay, and we'll talk about that.
Okay.
Okay. Does anyone else here in the audience have questions about this roof estimate presentation, et cetera? Sorry. All right.
Mr. Davis does.
Oh, sometimes I'm looking at the computer instead of real-life people, sorry.
Mark Davis, 13 Schuyler Drive. I didn't hear the presentation to the school committee, and the question may have been asked and answered. Are there a sufficient number of roof drains? And do we know that if they drain, do they drain properly?
Yes, there are enough roof drains. The problem now, the reason for the ponding is because of the condition of the insulation. As part of in our specifications, we require that the contractor water jets before the project starts and at the end of the project to make sure that all drains are clear.
Yep, Marguerite?
Hi, it's Marguerite. My question is, this will still be in this condition for many more months. Do you have any suggestions to prevent any more interior damage from that roof before it can be replaced?
You just keep, we've already made suggestions as far as the gym to try to keep that from blowing off anymore, but otherwise, it's just, if there is a leak, you go up top and see if there's been any further damage. Otherwise, there's not much you can do from that. But hopefully this summer would be when it would be, it's getting through this winter, which hopefully, maybe we won't have any more snow.
Thank you. That was my question. I was concerned if the interior will get significant damage from waiting until we have the cash flow to do this.
The other thing that actually I should have mentioned is when the ceiling tiles, if they start getting wet, one of the things we talked about with Keith was removing those ceiling tiles and probably just leave them out of there, because obviously if the leak can't be fixed, you don't want to have the ceiling tiles keep getting wet and then collapse. But that's just the ceiling tiles themselves.
All right, thank you. I heard sandbags and automobile tires. Was that a suggestion?
That's to put on the roof where it's blowing off, with that photo that I had shown, just to add weight to it, and as well as putting some straps on it which secure it down.
Thank you.
Yep.
I actually have a timing question that I think Kathy may be able to answer. If we fund this with a borrowing, it's approved by the voters, what prevents us from starting work before the 1st of July?
It's being appropriated out of fiscal year '27, and we don't have enough money there's not enough free cash to be able to do it, so there's no money to July 1st.
But the roof is not free cash, the roof is bonded.
I know, but the bonding, it's effective July. When you talk to Brian, Al, I don't see how you do it. That's why, you gotta be ready to go July 1st, right? The question to me, is it inside or outside the cap? I think you may keep this one even inside to keep another vote from.
I think you can, I'm sorry, I think you can, once the article is voted, the bonding authorization is there, you can go.
All right, so,
I don't believe it's a July 1, but we can check.
So I would also suggest if we can do it prior to July 1, that we,
Yeah,
even after tonight, start to get bid documents ready so that we're ready to go out on 3/3 or whenever after town meeting, as soon as possible, so that we, as soon as school's out on no more snow days, June 19th or 20th, wherever we're at.
Do you want us to make a motion to that effect?
so Chelsea, do you have enough money in the rent revolving account, or is there enough money here to put those bid documents together now without any more money?
So Andrew or James, is that part of our current arrangement with you to put the bid documents together?
So right now, we're commissioned to do the study only, and then I'm working on some preliminary numbers for budget estimates for the design effort. There's a provision in the contract that allows you, there's mechanisms in place that if you're satisfied with our services so far, you can elect to go ahead and hire us to continue the project to completion. And so hopefully we get to that point soon, and then once you are ready, we will send you a proposal to continue our services.
And from a timing standpoint, what we would do is we would do the design right away, put it out to bid so that you would have numbers close to, obviously, probably not by the town meeting, but you'd have numbers so that you would, be able to then, as you said, get ready to go as soon as you can work out the bonding and what's legal.
Andrew, can you guess what that cost from you guys would be to get us to getting the bids out the door?
You work on any of those numbers?
I haven't done all the numbers just yet, but, I will have that rather soon, so.
Is it five figures? Not six?
Low six.
No, it'll be lower. No, it's not five figures, no.
All right, Al, you,
Yeah, so I think this might qualify as a transfer from the reserve fund.
I agree.
This is an unusual expense at best, and there certainly is sufficient money in the reserve fund to cover.
Well, he said six figures, so.
Well,
it's
I'm-
6 figures. There's 180
I can
in
be
there.
optimistic, can't I?
Yeah, you can. So,
But, yeah.
okay, so I agree with you. That would be a way to get this going now, so that they really can start working on July 1st.
Well,
But if I'm wrong, then maybe earlier. So, what's the date? School's getting out right now if no more snow? June what?
I think it's June 22nd.
Okay.
My guess is there's work that could be done even before then. But on the other hand, you still got to, you don't have the authorization to borrow money until the voters actually go to the polls.
If we do it outside the cap, but we probably won't. $4.5 million is a lot of money, right? So if it's outside the cap, that's May, right? All right, so we understand to try to do everything we can to accelerate the funding, okay?
okay, so, is there anything, we've now got the number for Article 4 for the roof barring. Is there, the next part of this discussion is about the warrant itself and the language and the numbers for the remaining articles. Are we at the point as a group where we think like,
Well, Article 4 also has to include ADA.
For now.
well, I was just at the point where I was thinking, anything else we want to ask Socotec before? I don't think they need to stick around for the whole discussion about the nitty-gritty of the warrant. Or do you want to talk, talk a little bit about the ADA study that they did?
They can, but the other thing I was going to point out is they are available to come to special town meeting and give a presentation on the roof if that's what
Yes, we
you
can do
want.
that.
I think
Yep.
that makes sense, you've
Well, I
seen
think
some
all you gotta
comment
do is
already
pop
that-
those pictures
yeah.
up there, just leave them up there, and,
Well, already you've seen some commentary, people suggesting we don't need to do anything. I think this is pretty good evidence that, yeah, you do need to do something.
Okay, so we do want them to, I mean,
I think they
School
certainly
committee-
should be
school
available.
committee
Yeah.
wants
Yeah.
them to be there,
Yes.
but obviously it's your special town meeting, so just.
We can
wanted-
be there, yes, we can
Okay.
be there.
Okay, so we will have you added to the non-resident list with the moderator.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay,
Do you want to speak to the ADA?
Yeah,
components?
I can give you a quick rundown. Basically, what it amounts to is the bathrooms, almost all the bathrooms are not ADA accessible. And the entranceway needs some improvements. And one of the other big items is the classroom doors. They're not wide, a lot of them are not wide enough, plus there is not the adequate clearance on either side that ADA requires. So there's a lot of different things that really need to be done, and if you're doing an overall renovation, then yes, you know, so, and we can, you know, there's a lot of, and that will be in the report, by the way, with lots of photos and everything else that show it all. It's a pretty comprehensive report that we've done, but those are the types of things, bathrooms and doorways, and there's a couple ramps as well.
All right. Any other questions? Okay, so I think Andrew and Jim, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
Do we have any audience questions? Do we want to do that?
Is there anyone, I see names I don't really recognize here of, do you want to bring over HML? I don't know who this person is. Oh, okay.
Hey, it's Andrew Pfaff. I don't know what HMM. I don't know what that is. Andrew Pfaff, 50 Oak Hill. One question I had is I haven't seen the report yet, but is there some kind of a chart that does like a pros, cons, and the associated cost of less life, longer life products like spray foam and spray silicone, the single layer, et cetera? So that, because that's going to be a question that's going to be asked is there, you know, if we're going to keep the building for 5 or 10 years, is there a lower life option, and why should we not look at that? So I just think that needs to be provided as well, whether or not, I think 30-year might be the way to go, but I think we need to have that answered.
Yeah, we do have some of that information that will be in the final report.
Okay, great.
HML, what is that?
All right, and then could you bring over
High, medium, and low.
Karina?
Hi, yeah. My name is Corina Ionita. I'm from 22 Maple Crest Drive. I'm curious, you're putting out like a plan to change the roof and try to fix this. What's your contingency plan if once they start to repair it, other stuff will come up that needs to be repaired? This seems like I'm not talking to the company that's gonna do the replacement roof. I'm talking to the board, because it feels like you're talking about a price that's fixed for the roof repairment, but you're not talking about what are we gonna do if once we open up the roof and then pipes are gonna be broken and other things that come with it.
I'll try to give you an answer. So the $4.5 million kind of bottom line for this, it does include several layers of contingencies, so I don't know whether that would be covered in it, but I mean, that's probably the best answer I can give to you. But to put this in a bigger context, for the special town meeting on March 2nd, we're not only talking about this, but also another warrant article that would ask for money for a feasibility study to look at options on a renovation, both a full renovation and a more limited renovation. So there'll be certainly an opportunity at the town meeting to get that in process, to not just look at the roof, but other improvements to the building.
But from what you're saying, this seems to be like a done deal. It's gonna be either approved or denied, right?
Well, I certainly hope it, there'll be an article, there'll be one article that just deals with the roof, right? And because that's asking for borrowing, that's its own standalone article asking town meeting to approve borrowing for $4.5 million to complete the roof. And then a separate article, Article 1, will ask town meeting for money for a feasibility study to look at other repairs.
That's fine. That's not what I'm talking about. Based on my daughter being in school and every other day something else breaks. What I'm asking is, once you're gonna take the roof down and you're gonna try to repair, other things are gonna come. There's no way you're gonna say, I'm gonna replace this roof, the company's gonna do a great job, and that's it, that's all that's needed. So all I'm asking is, what's your contingency plan, and how are you taking into consideration other costs that you won't be able to approve the school after that? Because once you take the roof off, you're gonna have to inspect it, and if the inspection for that passes, but the inspection for other stuff is not gonna pass, what are you guys gonna do? That's what I'm asking. To be prepared for that, and I don't see that based on what you guys are talking and putting out on the websites.
Okay, maybe, I think when you see the whole draft warrant, you'll see, I think we have made plans for it, but someone else can answer the question better than I can. I'm trying my best.
I think the question that I'm understanding here, and it's for Socotec to answer, is with the amount of items that are on your proposal, the layers of insulation, the decking, the wood, is there anything not covered?
I don't think they're here.
Oh, no, they left?
Yeah, we're here.
Oh, you are here,
So,
okay.
so
Good.
finishing
All right.
that question, is there anything not covered that would be a surprise? Because it seems very extensive.
Yeah, let me, yeah. The couple of things. One, as I think was just stated, there's both a design contingency and a construction contingency. Each one is about 10%. And the nature of this type of construction, this is what we do all the time. And we are designers, we are not the contractors, so it is our role to give you a design which is going to protect you against these types of things. But in a school like this, all those things that you're talking about, those pipes that may be hidden in walls and all that type of thing, that's not really the way these buildings are built. A lot of that is visible. If there's drain lines that there are issues with, we will be looking at all of those. All of those things are pretty much included. The other types of things that as you open up things and change things, that will all be the types of things that are included in the interior renovations that are also being talked about. So I think that you know, I'm trying to give you a little bit of sense of somewhat security that we take all of this into account when we do our design.
Yeah, I think the most important thing you have to recognize is the roof is covered, the gypsum deck, the structural deck. We are anticipating that there's going to be some deficient conditions there along with the wood blocking that's buried as well, so to speak. So we have quantities built into the design and the contractor will own those. And one note of clarification I would like to say is we did review the different options that the gentleman was talking about earlier, like spray foam and any other solutions, and we are not recommending anything like that. The recommendation is to go back with a fully insulated, per code, 90 mil thick membrane and give you the 30-year warranty.
And we're prepared to discuss this at the town meeting. If those questions come up, we will be able to address those at town meeting.
Yes.
All right, thanks. So I think there's one more question here from Becca from the online, and then maybe move on to the next phase of this.
Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Becca Denti, 48 Oregon Road. Just one quick question that I'm struggling with at this moment is, you know, we've heard from Andrew Barr and his team that, you know, the roof is at the end of its life. I think we're all understanding that the roof is at the end of its life, but what do we know what will happen and what our plan forward will be if the town does not approve funding for a new roof?
Well, invite you to participate in this. I really think no. I mean, I think that we need a roof. We absolutely need a roof. I don't know really what the plan would be if, Greg, you want to? It must happen. And
right, I agree with you that it must happen, but the thing is like the votes aren't guaranteed. So if it doesn't happen, my son is my son is entering 4th grade. Like,
yeah, okay.
Where will he go to school?
All right, so Superintendent Martin is here.
Yeah, so hopefully it will pass and we'll have a new roof. In terms of contingency plans, we would continue to use the roof as is and repair it as it fails and go back to the drawing board around getting a new roof. I mean, there's not a lot of good options. We need a new roof.
So everybody needs to understand this is a 2/3 vote, and so it needs to be a concerted effort to get as many people to this meeting that will support this new roof as possible.
So, asking more to that question though, from something we have talked about, if this building would, let's just say there's a giant hole in the roof and there's no way the students could go into it. We talked about modulars and we looked at pricing of that before. That was about 2 million for each year?
No,
Is that-
in total, it's over 2 years, so $1 million a year.
$1 million a year. So even a temporary solution would cost $1 million a year until a foreseeable future, as well as a project. So if nothing else, and that was a temporary solution, which it's not supported, it's not something that we'd want to, but I'm just saying if the roof collapses.
So I think it's important to note that in terms of the structure and the roof collapsing, I think, Andrew, I don't know if you want to speak to that. I think you shared some information about that at our school committee meeting.
Yeah, he did. That was good.
You know, it's not in, we're not in fear of it collapsing. It's more of a terrible windstorm blowing off. Our contingency plan is putting sandbags on the roof for the short time and then repairing leaks as they come up as best we can.
I think you do need to be prepared to ask the question, the question is effectively, if Neary burnt to the ground tomorrow, what would you do? Because if we can't replace the roof, that's close to where we are.
No, it isn't.
My one other question I had was, we have a roof number here. What about the inside of the ceilings and all that? Is that within your operating budget to fix like the tiles that
Ceiling
have fallen?
tiles. We have ceiling tiles.
Okay, so nothing else substantial to need to be replaced at the moment from the water leaking in?
Well, as you heard Andrew say, and he said on the meeting on Friday, that as these tiles are, they come out of place, the best thing to do is to not replace them.
Yeah, I just want to know, like, if it was going to be substantial to fix the water damage in the building while we wait for the next part of this, so I was
And
just
we have
curious.
been.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll just quickly speak to our relocation plan. So our relocation plan is still a plan that would work in terms of, using our space in our other buildings. It is less than ideal. It would impact programming. It would impact our school climates and culture, and it would be a crisis situation. But that's what we would do in terms of if we had to evacuate that building.
And the most frontline way to prevent this, I think Al, said it, the roof needs to be replaced, there's no way around it. I mean, is that we all agree on that, or? All right,
I
so.
think it's important that we all do agree
Yeah, so I
on
wanted to stress that,
right?
you have the 5 members of the select board, we support Article 4. It's important to get this done.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yep.
move that the board support the replacement of the Neary roof as described by the SOTEC.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. So 5-0 on that. That's the easy part. Okay, so now I think, Vanessa, can you pull up? Okay, is this about the roof, or we won't know if we don't bring this person over? Hello?
Hi, Corinne, I talked again. So I really like that the board is supporting the roof replacement. I am worried that
I'll be right there.
the people of this town are not gonna support it, and it's not gonna be like a clear message that this needs to be changed.
Yes.
All right, I hear you, but I think we are clear on that we do want to replace the roof, period.
I know that you, the board, want to replace the roof.
Yeah.
I fear that you're not gonna get the support
So,
from the
Well,
town.
we need your help, so come to the special town meeting on Monday,
bring your
March
friends.
2nd, at Trotter Middle School at 6 PM. That's the most important thing that you can do to help this. Thank you.
Bring 10 friends, too.
Yes.
And Andrew, I have one more question right now, and I don't know if the answer can come from Socotec or anybody else, but if it's from them, or if we need to go back and ask Jay Tellerman the answer. what is our liability knowing the roof is this bad and not doing something about it? Do we have a huge liability within the town that we need to be aware of at this moment as well, weighing on this issue?
Let's
Yeah.
deal with that later.
All right, let's just turn to the warrant here. Okay, can you bring it up, Vanessa? All right, and just,
Page 7.
yeah, so here's what we're trying to do. Select Board needs to sign this warrant on February 13th, Friday. And here's the work that I think we need to do. So if you can scroll up so you can show as much of Article 1 as you can. So as we talked about at our last Select Board meeting, and then a slightly different draft of this was presented to the school committee meeting on Friday. The only change was if you look at the option 2 language, that is Al's kind of component to here, it's shorter and it took out language that he had about we don't want you to do this, or takes out the language about energy codes, kitchen. Do you want to talk to that?
Sure.
I think it makes it simpler.
The intent was to make it simpler and to provide more flexibility within the context of a defined budget, so that in effect, what this says is, we expect items A through F done, and then if there are other things that are appropriate within the context of the $15 million, those can be done. So it simply provides, it's simpler and provides more flexibility.
So Al, that last sentence, last full sentence, option 2 shall not, well, there's definitely a typo here. Option 2 shall not have an estimate, I guess? not
Estimated
estimated?
cost.
Cost.
Okay, then put cost in there?
Yeah.
Okay. So, I still don't understand. So you're gonna tell someone that, I want you to estimate all this, and then stop if you get above $15 million after you subtract the 88 in the roof? I just don't see how you tell someone to, here, I want you to do this, but you can't exceed this. So what are they supposed to do? To stop if they start pushing above that?
Yeah.
That's what you want? I mean this sincerely, I'm trying to understand. So if they start adding this up, right, based on what they've done in looking at a timeline, and they get above 15, they just stop?
Well, so at that point, they can no longer satisfy option 2. Now, nothing prevents someone from saying, we looked at option 2, and we looked at options A through F, and we don't think we can do this for less than, let's pick a number, $16 million.
So don't you still in the end want the number?
I want a hard number that people work to achieve.
Okay.
I'm greatly bothered, and I know I'm a voice in the wilderness on this, that, we don't do this sort of thing with the other things.
What I,
We don't need to get into the whole
Yeah.
debate, other than the main point here is that
the $15 million.
that this Article 1 is asking town meeting to appropriate money
Yes.
to look at both things.
Right.
A feasibility and schematic design, and then we still need to insert some language that's in the other ones, and we talked about this at the last meeting about design, right? So, for both the comprehensive renovation improvement of the school and what Al's talking
The
about.
limited
I'm
renovation.
trying to make a point here. So,
Yeah, I agree with you, Kathy.
but with the project that failed, if you go back and listen to the meetings, over and over, I kept trying to do exactly what you're doing here. I gave them a number, and they said, we can't get there. It's truly impossible to get there.
If a company accepts the bid to do this work,
They're saying,
no, if a company accepts the bid to do this work, assuming this passes, and then they come back and say, we can't do it, they get fired.
But Al, are you assuming that the
Yeah.
companies will be overcharging us, and that's why you want to control it?
I have managed spec creep all my life, and you need hard tools to do this.
But you're right, you're taking that whole option off the table if they come in at 16 million. to
I'm
do
not
a
taking it
partial
off the
reno.
table.
If you say
somebody
15, the town can't even have the option of choosing it.
First off, this will ultimately end up being a warrant article. And if this board wants to offer an alternative warrant article that's some hybrid of the two, there's absolutely nothing that prevents them from doing that.
When?
Well, so when you go to seek money to actually do the work.
Okay. The point I'm trying to make is, if someone doesn't, I just want to make sure we're going to get a bid for this. If they say this is really unreasonable, I know what they're going to say. I know what things cost here. I can add them up real quick. I've got my estimator out here. We're already way above that, so why bother? So why wouldn't you want this to say, instead of, you really can't exceed it, this is your goal to not exceed this, but we still want them to do the work, because what if they come up with 15.5? Let's go back to, you just hear me out and don't get mad at me.
I'm not mad.
Safety building. Remember, you wanted it to be less than $20 million, right? And it ended up being, I think the architect said 21 million. The actual bid that came in eventually, though, was 15 million. It was a really good time to bid. We got a great bid, so it really came in. But if you had stuck with, we're not going to do it unless you tell us right now it's got to be $20 million or less, we wouldn't have gotten that $15 million bid. So I just think you are sort of cutting your nose off to spite your face here by saying you have to do it here, instead of saying this is the goal. We really don't. We want to see if we can do this for something about $15 million, but still come up with the number and say, well, you really can't, it's going to be 16. So you can at least see what the number would be, instead of just saying you're going to be fired if you don't come up with this for $15 million.
And it would take the option of a limited reno off the table completely if you put a cap on it like that. Say you could get a limited reno for 18 and it was fabulous. You wouldn't have that option if it had the 15 cap. I just think the cap is the problem. I like the rest of it.
The cap is a method for dealing with spec creep.
Yeah, but you don't know, I mean, that number, if it's, it's not like that number is really rooted in. I've done a lot of work, and I think it's a good number.
Actually, Tim and I have spent a considerable amount of time trying to figure out whether the $15 million is reasonable.
Okay, so to guide this here, I think this is a debate that's never going to be resolved, really, and I'm just trying to shepherd this, and like I said, we needed to sign this by the 13th. So, whoa, let me finish.
Just like it is, right? I just
Kathy,
think
let me
that
finish
you're
here.
trying to not end up with this work being done.
Okay, so here's the language that we've got, right? I think our focus really should be about trying to finalize the language. And the things that we need to finalize are the amounts. So that's a significant thing, and I don't know whether we'll be able to get that done this evening. I think it's likely we're probably going to need one other kind of off-cycle meeting. It's probably going to have to be, based on people's schedules, Friday. Maybe we could do it by Zoom too, if we're able to.
What Friday?
This Friday.
You mean amounts for the feasibility
Yeah.
studies?
This Friday or next Friday?
This Friday.
This Friday.
Yeah, we have to sign by the 13th. Okay, so just follow with me here. There's a couple, like wordsmithing things like the addition of the, cost there. But, this is a kind of a hybrid article that, there are parts of it that some of us don't like, but I think it advances the ball by, if we all support it, and it doesn't cost more to study the option that Al is talking about, and it's passed, then I think everyone, we're able to move to the next phase, which is a later, discussion about if this passes, how comprehensive a renovation we want, all right? So I think the things to work on tonight are the language, the numbers, and then the method of funding Articles 1, 2, and 3. Clearly, 4 has to be bonded, and I think Article 1, the number we had before was 175. And even if that went up a little bit, that's still a number that probably is small enough that it should be appropriated from free cash. And then I think there's a discussion about, for 2 and 3, given the budgetary considerations we talked about at at our summit, you know, it would be very difficult if, for everyone, if Articles 2 and 3 both passed and they were both funded from free cash. So, do you think, Chelsea, you or Greg could speak to the cost numbers? You know, the last draft we had 175 for Article 1. I want to say 324 for Article 2 and 500 for Article 3. So, and then I know Tim had a question about, that I think is a good question about, you know, Article 3, which is a feasibility study for,
Fin only.
yeah, fin only. Should that be, because that's only studying one school, you wouldn't need to do 2 sets of, you know, site studies, building studies. Shouldn't that naturally be a lower number than Article 2, which is looking at 2 different schools, right? Moving 5th grade to Trotter and doing some work on that building, and moving 3rd grade to, or another grade to Finn and doing work on that building.
So I actually have a process question on Article 1 first.
Sure.
So are you anticipating that we would go out to bid under Article 1 for option 1 and 2 together?
Yes.
So what happens if somebody doesn't want to look at option 2? Are you doing the bid process so that they can bid on option 1 only? Or are you making the bid process? So the reason why I'm asking is because when we went out to bid on the bus contract, we gave optionality in the bid process. And we actually had nobody bid on a certain makeup of buses. So I'm just wondering what the intent
Here's what I've thought about it. And I've always thought in a way that option 2 wasn't even really necessary, because for someone to cost out option 1 and you would get a breakdown, just like we had for the roof, of different line items, this part will cost this part will cost this part will cost this. That would also give you the information that you were looking for option 2. So I'm hopeful that.
So here's my concern is Al said he's gonna fire somebody if they can't get it under 15 million. So then we lose their bid on option, or the work done on option 1? Do we want them to follow, if they bid on both, or it's a bid package with both of them together, are we getting rid of them on option 1 too?
No.
So they would do the work on option 1 and get fired on option 2?
No.
I just want to make sure we're,
That's one person that said that. That's
Should
not
it be
necessarily
2
going to
articles?
happen.
Should it be 2 articles?
No.
I'm just asking process-wise how we're going to go out to bid on this, or if somebody stands up at town meeting and only wants to look at option 2, how are we? Are we doing
you
them
are going to
together?
go out to bid, and obviously the 2 are very interrelated, and I agree that the lesser project is going to be part of the bigger one. So the
Okay.
same architect should be able to easily do the second part first.
Yeah.
And if they come through and say, I still think you just give them a chance to say this is what it adds up to. It makes no sense
agree.
to me to.
I think you need
put this
No,
arbitrary cap on.
there are some substantial differences. Option 1 envisions NERI as a long-term 30 to 40-year solution. So, for example, the HVAC components that you might put in that class of work might be quite different than the HVAC components that you would use if you were trying to keep the building active for 15 years. The same thing is true for the pointing and repair of the exterior. You know, the ADA is probably ADA regardless.
Yeah.
Although if you start moving walls, that starts changing things. So there are substantial differences between the 2 types of projects, where one, you would not envision moving walls because all of a sudden you're going to start breaching some additional code requirements. So there are meaningful differences between them. It's not simply a question of picking a line item and saying, picking and choosing line items. There are many items there where the option A and option 1 and option 2 would be different numbers.
Okay.
But the answer is that if somebody bids on a contract and then says, I can't fulfill the contract, that's a problem.
I guess maybe we'll have a building committee to oversee this, or we probably should talk about that at some point too.
No,
but-
yeah.
Okay.
So, just to be clear, I don't agree with that statement, they're going to be fired. I don't know what Andrew thinks, or Margaret thinks, or what Tim thinks, but I think that is absolutely an inappropriate way to approach this, so.
Yeah, okay.
That's not a select board statement.
Okay.
No, that's a crank.
And I have envisioned that
No,
if-
you're not crank, but that's one.
Oh,
we
yes.
would need another building committee to work with the consultants that are hired to do this process. I'm just so focused on just trying to go from one step to the next step to the next step. That's another enormous discussion that we only get the luxury of having if we're able to successfully.
But I think it's a question you need to be prepared to
yeah,
answer at
yeah.
town meeting is, are you
Yeah.
ready to go with this? Because
Yep.
I think the only
to
sticking
get
point
moving.
is the $15 million cap, for me, right now.
I mean, I think, well, I think
You
there's
can
a-
always move on the floor of town meeting to change it. And
okay, so for Article 1, without option 2, we had 175,000 for that. Which would not, obviously, the roof, we've already taken care of, so that work has already been done.
Understood.
And obviously, the work that Neary Building did, those documents can be used. So we have information there. So does anybody have any questions on the 175?
yeah, you've also done the ADA.
Correct.
So two of the larger components of
Are done.
But, so do you think the 175 is an appropriate, I've always thought that the person who would be, the company that would do the work for the 175 comprehensive renovation, they're in the process of that, going to be already looking at all this stuff, so it doesn't need to be,
Right.
you wouldn't need to increase the 175.
Okay,
do
but
you?
Andrew, that's not what Al
That's
just
what Al's
said.
saying.
That's not
Al's
what he
saying
just
there's
said.
different.
Okay.
Well, I'm asking, what do you think?
What do
Let's
I
ask-
think? I don't agree
Hold
with
on a
option
second.
2, so.
Greg, I can't remember exactly what Larry said in that email. He didn't know about option 2, I don't think.
Yes, so the building study is
140.
I do think that option 2 could be incorporated in 140. I think some of the work in option 1, and then getting a sense of, okay, here's the goal, whatever the goal is, to have the building operate as a school for 10 or 15 years. I think the work's going to flow from that.
Okay, so you think 175 is enough to cover option 1 and 2, right? Okay.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
What about
So,
2 and 3?
sorry, can you scroll, Vanessa? So I just want to make sure I'm talking about the right article for the next one. So this is for both together, Finn and Trotter, and that's 500.
That one was listed as 324.
So they were reversed in whatever you had, but
Yeah.
it's
So the-
500 for Finn and Trotter. So it's,
Okay.
the building study is 240, the site study is 160, and the OPM is 100.
That's 500.
Mhm. And then, Vanessa, if you want to go to Article 3, please. So this is for Finn only to add 2 schools, and this would be 324,000. So the caveat with this is, if Article 2 passes, then we would reduce this article by 80,000 because the, sorry. Only if Article 2 fails. Yes, okay, right. Thank you. You would reduce this by 80,000 because you'd have duplicative site study work.
Right, so the most we're gonna pay is $999 list 80. Everybody agree?
I didn't add them all up, but 824 and 175. Yeah.
Okay, so basically, the numbers that we had in the last draft were just reversed.
Yeah.
Okay, so then the 324, what's the breakdown again on that?
So OPM 64, site studies 80, which would come out if Article 2 passes, and then the building studies 180.
So 919 is the most,
Okay, I get it.
okay?
And then, so Article 1 includes an OPM component to it? too?
35.
Okay,
Oh, that's 143, okay, that makes sense.
all right, I think Kelly had her hand up, had a,
I just have a clarification. Kelly Conklin, 17 Sadie Hood.
oh, yeah.
Kelly Conklin, 17 Sadie Hood. I just had a clarification question on Article 1's language. In the removal and containment of asbestos in occupied spaces, could we define what occupied spaces are?
Spaces people work in or occupy.
Does that, are we talking just the tiles? Are we talking, is there asbestos in the pipes, or is there asbestos in the floor? What?
When I looked at the Vertex report, which was not particularly instructive on this, the question is, yeah, if people occupy that space, either regularly or irregularly, then the asbestos would be dealt with. So for example, you know, if we have some coolers that might not be used, and if they weren't used, we might not have addressed it there. But does that answer your question?
I mean, isn't,
If
would it be safe
if
to say
there's
the building is mostly
asbestos,
occupied?
if there's asbestos in a classroom ceiling tile, it goes.
Okay.
If there's asbestos in the floors of a classroom or a hallway, it goes.
Okay.
You know, I'm trying to get the asbestos out of the building.
Well, I think what maybe, I'm sorry if you're like, I think where you're going is, how about just taking out that qualifier in occupied spaces?
Sure.
Thank you.
Yes, Mark?
Mark Davis, 13 Schuyler. Just to follow up on Kelly's question, that same modifier is in, not only in the asbestos, it's, I guess that was the only one. I had the same issue there. My problem is with option 2 is, A, you have a $15 million number there. With all due respect to the work you did, I read the Versatech report 4-5 years ago, before the first committee even started. And I rejected their numbers then because they were too low. They didn't have any detail of what those numbers meant. Now, you describe maintenance of and component replacement of HVAC system. The whole building is not air conditioned. The whole building doesn't have an air handling system. So we need to be very exact. A renovated school is going to have a complete HVAC system. It's not going to renovate the existing system because it doesn't work to the extent that we need in a newly renovated school. So the $15 million is based on Versatech's numbers. His report I'm going to say it was July of 2021. More than likely, his numbers are based on 2020 figures. They're not 21 numbers. A contractor only uses those numbers that they can grab at, and even if he used his estimating department, the numbers really are 2020 based. There was a horrible change in construction prices between 2020 and 22. And in one case, steel, for a period of time, went up 1,500%. So utilizing those old numbers and then building them back up with whatever you did doesn't take into account all the pressures of construction today and doesn't take into account exactly what we're going to find when we put this out to bid. The numbers we generated in the first committee, I think during the summer of '24, for the renovation project at Neary, I wouldn't even rely on those numbers today because we're 2 years out. Construction numbers for the last 5 years have never been more in a state of disarray. You could get a bid today, and 3 weeks from now, it's going to be different. So my objection is that we have a $15 million figure there, and people will attach themselves thinking we can get a lot of value for $15 million. But in your analysis, you neglect to bring up that we have a septic system that is well over 30 years old and needs to be replaced. You've mentioned that we might have some money to fix the drainage system outside, fix some of the sidewalks. And yet, our current drainage system fails. It is in failure. It doesn't work. So one thing I learned is, during this whole process, is the overall land site and our respect for the components of the land site that make it work. And that is the wetlands area. Our current drainage system flows directly into that same pond that Bill Cundiff talked about with the landfill. The system is in failure. It does not meet the current stormwater design. So no matter what we do, we need to be dealing with some comprehensive issues that we haven't even been talking about. The moment you start digging in that parking lot to fix a sump or do some other work, you will trigger the stormwater management plan. And in my mind, that's a code we should be complying to, because we need to protect the wetlands to make sure that site and all the neighborhoods around are safe. That wetlands is critical to our being able to use that land. So we can't be short-sighted. I claim that what you have in option 2, if it's worded carefully with no numbers attached, can be alternates to what you have in option 1. For instance, if we're going to remove all the asbestos, option 1's going to give you that number. If we're going to put in a sprinkler system, option 1 will give you that number, and you can pull that out. So later in a town meeting, if you want to take out 10 items and say, we'll do these, and here's our budget, be my guest. But to sit here and suggest that we can do a lot of this for $15 million, it doesn't paint the true picture. And as one who has been arguing for over 45 years that we shouldn't be kicking the can down the road on code issues, codes are meant to protect the health and safety of the occupants of the building. I could construe this type of analysis to be nothing different than pushing code issues down the road. And this is what has gotten us into trouble. This is why we're at the position we are today. I am more than happy to sit with you and work out some of these details add that as some options as part of option one that you want to see, and then you can cherry pick and put an article on the floor, but to demand different ways of looking at this, I don't think it's going to be helpful. Pointing and repair of exterior brick and concrete, that's an easy one. And that can be added as just an alternate. We also need to be cognizant that when you bid out a building, there's a lot of elements of scale that work to keep your costs down. When you piece it together, piece by piece, and say, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this, costs suddenly change. So picking something out is not the same as having it in a building. For instance, you talk nothing about the energy codes, and it's been something everyone's just trying to avoid. Yet it is a policy of this town to meet or exceed the energy codes. So we really need to be careful how we're addressing ourselves down the road. The energy codes affect the cost of the air conditioning system. The energy codes affect correctly what we put underneath that roof. And I applaud the school department for making sure that the insulation meets the current codes. Eventually, with a renovation, we're going to have to meet those codes, and every component is tested against that. And that's the critical part. But you can't take those pieces out and think we can't deal with them.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
So then, Tim, you wanted a comment, and then...
So, Andrew, let me just clarify his numbers here. So Mark was on the NERI Building Committee, so he knows the numbers really well. So when the research committee did its first work in 2021, we asked John Lemieux, who was the OPM for the Public Safety Building, to work with us. And the per square foot cost of a building back in 2021 was $750, which was even shocking to us then. By the time the NERI Building Committee was finished with its work, it was up to $1,300 a square foot. Now, we worked really, really hard and got it back down to about $1,100. We had a $110 million cost at the end for a 99,000 square foot building. So it went from $750 a square foot with the Vertex report to $1,300, maybe $1,200. So there was huge inflation in those 3 or 4 years.
Tim Litwood Road. I really didn't want to have to talk this evening, but here we go. I'm sensitive to Al's concern about scope creep. I've managed large projects, very large projects, and scope creep certainly happens. The way you deal with scope creep is you have an aggressive management structure. You don't set a budget not to exceed and try and expect people to shoehorn into it. So I'm all for the notion of saying, you know, if you want to have a smaller plan, a deferred maintenance, and, you know, just the necessary stuff, by all means specify that, and specify a management structure, whether it's an advisory committee or whether Mr. Hamilton wants to stand up and say he'll be the whip cracker over the people who do the work. That you can make work. Trying to do this, you know, with a predetermined cap is a recipe for failure, and I strongly recommend against it. And I echo, and I have made in other public meetings, the same comments as Mr. Davis has made in terms of, you know, codes are written in blood and they're designed to protect us. They're not, you know, the evil zombies that you need to, you know, keep out of your life.
All right, thanks. Okay, let me just give you some thoughts about, because it's getting to, like, you know, getting a bit later, about how we can...
I think Mary wants to talk.
Yeah.
But I want to hear what they've got to say.
Yeah, okay. No, we'll get to you, but I just want to, here's things that we still need to talk about. We haven't talked about Articles 2 and 3. The numbers we just heard, are we okay with the articles as they're drafted? Do we want to keep them in? I know we had some discussion about their, you know, this came up at the last meeting. Do we feel like we want to keep them all in?
I think we do if you go back and look at the criticism of the failed project, I think we've addressed a lot of that here. Doesn't mean we've got to support those articles when we vote, but I think we do need to bring them forth to town meeting and let town meeting decide whether they want those studied. We can say, look, these are expensive to study. They do affect your taxes, and give them a chance to say yes or no, we want to study them.
Okay, and then maybe later, we'll talk about Articles 2 and 3, free cash or bonding. But then another thing that came up at the school committee meeting on Friday that, just listening to the discussion is making me think of this again, is should we move up what we've been talking about as Article 4, just the roof appropriation, and just make that first? Because that seems like that could be, just listening here, you can see kind of a preview of how the town meeting is going to go on if the discussion about Article 1 and Article 4, I think, is much more straightforward. So I don't know how people feel about that, which is that just go straight to the roof repair as your first article to talk about, and then you would talk about the broader renovation options. I just fear the discussion could get bogged down of an hour of debate about the stuff we just heard, right?
And some people may come just to vote on the roof anyway, so.
No, I hear you on that.
I support that, Andrew.
You know, so there's some pros and cons to that. I don't know how the school committee feels about that.
I guess I'll talk, and then if somebody disagrees, they can. I think the only concern in the ordering and not having Article 4 be last is if Article 1 fails, meaning the 175. So let's say you have the roof alone, the roof passes on its own merit, and then this article for 175 fails. I don't want everybody to think we put a roof on it and we walk away, there's nothing else to do. Because as we heard, we're going to trip a lot of code compliance, and it's, I mean, the moral right thing to do, as the two gentlemen just spoke about, right? So if we were to put the roof first, I think we would have to put feasibility funds into that article with ADA, and then if once we get to Article 1, we could reduce the 175 by the feasibility amount that we included with the roof.
Don't we have, wait, I'm confused
We
right
need
now.
a feasibility study to do.
So are you talking about what Andrew is going to charge to get ready for the bids? Is that what you mean by?
No, I mean, like.
Are you talking about feasibility for ADA?
If feasibility for everything except for ADA, because we have the ADA number, but we're going to need to do feasibility on all the codes that get tripped.
At the 30%, right?
Well, we're
That's-
talking about $6.5 million on a $12 million valuation. So it's really 50% of your assessed value is, assuming Paul Sabelli is not going above 13 million, you're talking about $6.5 million worth of work between the roof and ADA. So that's more than half of the assessed value.
Assuming the roof is over the 30% though. That's the number that we're expecting, like we're expecting it to be above the 30%. That
Yeah.
means ADA happens, and then that means some subsequent things happen post
Right.
that.
So what I don't want to happen is the roof passes and everybody just assumes that we can fail everything else because now Neary has a roof and we're good to go.
Yeah.
So you wanna
We're
keep
not.
You want to keep the order you've got.
I'm just giving my perspective for your discussion. If you were to move it, you need to make, and even if it's Article number 4, we need to have feasibility money in there, because if Article 1 fails, we need to have some money in Article 4 that we would need to do some work. Like, we can't keep going to the revolving account. We took $85,000 out to get to this point with the roof.
So you could keep the roof as 4, you could start off with $6.5 million in it, and if 1 passes, you could then take
The ADA off.
the ADA out. Paul will let you, I think he'll let you
reduce
amend to go down. You know, you can also go up, but he may think that's too much to go up, so
Sure.
you don't start for it and try to amend up.
Yeah.
So you'd probably be better off amending down. I think he would think that's in the 4 corners. We should certainly ask him. So that's one reason to make it 4 and
Right.
not 1.
And I still think, so I think you need to have 3 components to Article 4, assuming we keep that as a roof. You have $4.5 million for the roof, two for ADA, which you would strip if Article 1 passes, and then also feasibility money to look at everything, all the code compliance that's going to get tripped as part of doing, depending on what happens, so we're not going back to town meeting, but then you strip that amount if Article 1 passes.
I think we're also overlooking that if the roof passes, all of this has to happen. Like, yeah, so it's like even, the feasibility study, I don't think covers it. It just starts to tell you what you have to spend, but there's already
100%.
pre-committed spending.
I think we
Yeah.
just need to be clear when we explain Article 4. If Article 1 doesn't pass, we need to be clear with Article 4 that there's going to be a whole slew of other capital items that are going to have to come up, even
No
if we're
matter
not,
what. No
even
matter
if we're not fully renovating Neary, which I'm not exactly sure how that wouldn't then be a full renovation, but I'll let the experts do the analysis. But I think we just need to be clear with the citizens that we cannot do a roof and walk away.
So the one thing that we do know is Article 4, if it's still the roof, is going to have a 2/3 vote. Article 1, we believe is going to be a 50% vote because we're going to take it out of free cash. Then we got to talk about Article 2 and 3. So it's a lower threshold on 1 than Article 4. So, that should help, right?
Yeah.
We should have Mark Robideau weigh in on this too, because my conversation with him at one point was there might be a variance opportunity, something here to look at, and I don't understand any of that enough to fully know what that could weigh in on how it could affect this whole picture.
Yeah, our initial conversations with Mark, and I think he should in fact opine formally, it was that the roof in and of itself would not trigger other code issues, but we should let him back. Now, getting on to the question of Articles 2 and 3, and where does the money come from?
Could you first just speak to what we were just talking about? Do you think Article 4, we keep in the present order, or?
Yes, I think that's the right thing to do.
I think based on what Chelsea said, it is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mary is trying to.
I'm so sorry, Mary Tinty, 2 General Henry Knox Road. Before you move on to other articles, there was one correction made to option 2 in real time, and the word cost was added. I just wanted to circle back. I wondered if it was prudent to make Kelly's suggestion in real time too.
Yeah, I
Just
think
get
that's a good idea.
forgotten.
And then I have some others.
And then
too.
you're done with it. So in occupied spaces, for letter C, under option 2, in occupied spaces should get struck.
Who's making those changes in real time, Vanessa?
Vanessa.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's another that I'm gonna suggest, and I talked about this at school committee. I'll go over it. So go down, it's Roman numeral C.
It's B, C,
Yeah,
they both have it.
The term occupied spaces occurs in both B and C.
okay.
Yeah.
Strike in occupied spaces.
Yes.
B and C.
And
So
then,
now-
and then where we say a feasibility study, you see in at the top of Article 1? Okay, and because what we had talked about, we don't just want to study about whether this is possible, we want schematic design, and that's what's the same language as in Article 2. So after feasibility study, and before writing this down, let's just see if everyone agrees. Articles 2 and 3 have and associated design, planning, architectural, and engineering work.
Say that again?
And associated design, planning, architectural, and engineering work.
Well, you're trying to get to the point, you've got an estimated cost, right?
Exactly. So
So
that
they
language
should
would
all
then be
have the
consistent in Articles 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
So you want me to say it again? So please type in, right where your cursor is. Hold on.
You just copy it from the next one down, right? So she could just
Yeah,
do
yeah,
Article 2 and just copy it up.
yeah. And associated design, planning, architectural, and engineering work.
Just in the interests of consistency, it gives the address for Neary, but it doesn't give the address for Trotter or Finn, I think, do we need the address for Neary?
No.
So you could lop that out, located at 53 Parkerville Road, Southborough, Mass. That could come out.
Okay, so everyone's okay with that?
Mhm.
All right. So then, Al, I think you were suggesting we talk about the numbers. for
sources of
Article
funding
two-
for
Article
Articles
2 and
2 and
the
3.
sources of funding, right? And are we all in agreement that, I mean, I don't think the language of Article 1 would change, but the motion would be to free cash for Article 1?
Free cash for Article 1. Now, the question on 2 and 3 is free cash versus debt. And we have a debt policy, and so my question is, what is the expected life of the asset?
0. Not much. So,
Then it's free cash.
I think it's free cash too. And for those that went to the budget summit, the budget's looking a lot better. Than it was when we were there. Still some things to be determined. If you did debt, you're right. I mean, what do you do it over a year anyway? So what's the difference, right? If you do free cash, the money is available the next day. I think Mark is wrong about whether the debt will give us the money the next day, but we'll find out. So this way we know we got it the next day. So I don't think you should do them differently.
Yeah.
Well, here's the pros and the cons that I've seen, and I'm still kind of making up my mind on this, is the pros of using free cash are it's more consistent with the debt policy, as you mentioned, and it's an easier presentation. There's not a different vote hold for Article 1, 2, and 3 that seems weird to people. The con is it would have a significant impact on the FY '27 budget, but I think the way you deal with it is you just explain that.
I don't think you're right, Andrew, about you're still going to take that debt over a year. It's going to affect the budget either way. If you were going to extend it for 10 years, we're going to have to write that debt off right away. It doesn't have a life. It's going to be a sunk cost the minute you do it.
Yeah, if you'll recall, I did not vote in favor of the debt policy, but we have a debt policy. And the expected life, if there was only one option on the table, and that was the one then maybe you could argue that you could roll that into the construction costs, but we don't.
So how do people feel about free cash for Article 2 and 3?
I think we need it just because of the 50% threshold. We need to fund more of these than not, in my opinion. We need 2/3 at the end of the day. So I think we really need to have more options and less for the town to look at and decide which one they have the most appetite for, so they can have 2/3 majority to pass anything that we need to do to fix the school.
All right. You got 3 people here wanting to do free cash, so,
Okay.
okay. Because the debt is going to be, you're going to amortize it right away anyway. It's not going to.
No, I know it would be
And
very
it is,
weird
and
to do
the
that.
impact would be 2 and 3 would
But
have.
that doesn't
2/3
affect the
majority.
language we've got, right? It's just, this would be the
Well,
motion.
you're going to have to put in there how it's going to be funded.
I think you have to say, we'll vote to raise and appropriate from free cash.
Yep.
You have to, in each of these, it should be raise and appropriate from free cash.
Except for 4.
Same language.
Except for
as
4.
1.
Okay. We can keep the language we have, and you just deal with this in the motion, right?
Yep.
Yes, okay. I'm just thinking about the words, because if we go to, our next phase is finalizing the warrant and then signing it, right? So the point I'm making is, you can keep the language we have, which is, raise, appropriate, borrow, and then on the floor, you move that it's appropriated from free cash.
Yeah, the warrant is a warning that this is what we're going to talk about. The actual motion can vary as long as it's within the 4 corners.
All right, and then the actual numbers, the 500, 324, you reduce Article 3 by 80,000 if Article 2 passes?
Yeah, so you can amend that on the floor. That's easy.
Okay, but I do think that we should not go in with a article in the printed warrant that just says a sum of money, that it should be the max number should be in the
I
warrant.
agree. And
Yeah.
then if Article 2 passes, then we will amend, one of us will amend Article 3 to reduce it by 80.
Okay.
and let Paul know that's what we're gonna do.
So we're okay with, should we put in the numbers now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do it.
We don't feel, I mean, Chelsea, you gave a good answer to where they all came from. Like, we feel like those numbers are all accurate. They represent like the things that we have. There's no more ambiguity to them that they could go down lower. It just seems odd that it adds up to $999,000 and it just, something you explained it. I'm still curious because it seems more expensive than I was anticipating.
This is still gonna have to go out to bid.
Yep.
So, yeah, the number may not be these numbers, but
They're
it's
conservative.
it's up to whoever bids on the project.
So Article 1 is $175,000.
Mhm.
From free cash.
Article 2 is $500,000. Article 3 is $324,000. And then Article 4 is $4,500,000.
Plus ADA, or?
Do you want
Yeah,
the ADA in there too, or?
You gotta have it in there, then we will reduce it if we can.
Okay.
So if Article 1 passes,
We'll
you
amend
take
that
out
one
the
too.
2 million because you would do it as part of an overall
Yep.
project.
Yep.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily. Article 1 could pass, Article 2 could pass, Article 3 could pass.
Understood, but you're not going to put $2 million into it if you could potentially be doing a NERI building project.
But when, in other words, I believe that when you put the roof on,
Yeah.
you also have to appropriate the money for ADA.
That's not what I heard.
That's not what he
Okay.
said, so,
And I remember what
Hey.
he said. He gave a good explanation at the Friday meeting. He said, let's say someone blew the whistle, meaning someone made a complaint to the, I'm not remembering the name of the board, but the.
MAAB.
Yes, and said, the town of Southborough is violating this rule, they spent X on the roof, they should be doing, what he said is, as long as you can show to them that you have a plan, you've taken like a next step towards this, that it is unlikely there'd be some negative.
Okay,
Yeah.
I yield.
okay. So 6.5 for now, and then we'll amend to 4.5
So
if
I'm just
Article 1
adding up
passes.
I'm adding up the four, I'm adding up these two numbers from the Socotec as, hold on, I gotta make sure I get it.
It's 6.5, Andrew.
Is, yeah,
So-
I've got 6,663,275. So would you just round that up a bit to?
6.7?
It's-
Yeah, 6.7?
I guess in the summary, Mark, you can break out what the roof is versus
Yeah.
ADA.
With help, yes.
So let's just put 6.7 in there for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
So
we know we're
6.7.
gonna take out 2.2 if Article 1 passes.
Yeah.
So I think you need to put though in that with the replacement, or it's gonna be for the replacement of the roof and associated ADA upgrades. And then you also need to have a feasibility component here, which should probably be the 140,000 of the building study related to Article 1. So the 175 minus the 35 for the OPM.
Okay, I get what you're saying, so I agree, so add another 150 to it, let's keep a round number here. So 6.7, so let's say 6.85? Chelsea?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then we just
And
have to have
that's
one
6
person ready
6
to
million.
amend those articles, so we
Yeah.
don't look at each other and not get them. So we have one person that will be designated to amend if need be, which
Right.
hopefully it will be.
So I have a question. This is a big number, and there's more that could get wrapped into the roof cost, right? As we find out more about this building that's part of the feasibility study and all that. Would it be smarter, I know we have an ADA number, would it be smarter to do the roof and the feasibility number, and then plan for a fall special town meeting assuming we're gonna have the studies, the feasibility studies and everything done at this point, to fund the rest of this project or whatever as we need to do the next step, that would be our next piece to this. I'm just trying to think about like,
Well,
I think there's more than ADA.
oh,
if the building stays.
there totally is, right? So if Article 1 fails, you're doing the 6.8, which is the roof replacement, ADA, and figuring out what else you need to do.
Yeah, like sprinklers and everything else
Everything,
into it.
right?
Yeah.
So if Article 1 passes, then you're knocking that number down to 4 or 5 for the roof.
Assuming that one of the other plans will come into place or one of the other studies will come into place that the students would move
That's
out of
right.
this building,
That's
right?
Yes.
But then,
So-
and if it
Yes.
doesn't work out, then we may have to go back at a fall time meeting and ask for more money. So it just depends on what we end up with the
Yeah.
project too.
Yeah.
So I still think this is the right way to do this. And then we know what we will amend if
It's
they
only-
start being passed like we want them to.
My concern is it's only one piece of a bigger puzzle, so we're adding more to it, but it's not the complete picture.
I mean, the
so we're
unfortunate part
trying
is,
to.
we have to do the, if we could wait to do the roof, we would do an all-encompassing project, right?
Yeah.
The unfortunate part is, we just don't have that option.
Yeah.
So we have to do it this way. I don't see it that way.
Unless there'd be a variance opportunity for now to cover us for this, which I don't, again, we'd have to have the building inspector weigh in on what that opportunity or process would be.
Sorry, I didn't follow you.
There, as I understand the opportunity, if you do the roof and it's, I don't know if it's over the 30%, there might be an opportunity to apply for a variance. I don't know the full ramifications of how that works or what the steps are. I just know that there's an opportunity and a process for a variance. I don't know the full process. So I don't know.
Let's
It
just leave it at
complicates
6850. If we don't need to borrow it, we won't. And if we amend it, which we are hoping we're going to amend it, we want this to come
Right.
down.
So I feel like we're very close to finalizing this now, but I think we should go over the estimates too. I mean, not the estimates, the summaries. It's not that much additional work, but if you go up to Article 1, this is pretty short and kind of diplomatic, I think. This
Well, I think you
article
need to
proposes to fund a feasibility study for renovation and building improvement options for the, I think that's accurate.
I think you should say there with the goal of ending up with an estimate of the cost. So people understand we're trying to find the cost of these 3 things. I think you have to put cost in there someplace.
Okay, and so you just write, with the goal of finding out an estimate for these options.
Yep.
Estimated cost of these options.
Or with the goal of estimating the cost.
Of these options.
I mean, I think you need to say that one of the option, like, you're not really looking at renovation and building improvement options for the second part. That's really for part 1.
So maybe break it up into part 1 and part 2.
Yeah, I think you need to have a description of both.
Okay, I think that's beyond, I'm not gonna be able to do that right now.
If you want to assign somebody?
Yeah, okay,
Happy
Okay.
to delegate.
all right. Maybe Al and I can put our heads together.
Happy to delegate to
and
you
we'll
two,
have
yep.
Okay, so then Article.
But she's right, you guys, I think you're going to have to separate that
Yeah,
one into two
Article
options.
2, this article proposes funding a feasibility study for the Trotter to determine the feasibility of constructing additions to accommodate 5 a Trotter and 2. Phase 1 will include building systems capabilities and wetland surveys. If feasible, Phase 2 will include schematic, design, architectural. So that got
This
at
one's
the.
good, because you end up with
Good.
costs there, you got costs there, so that's good.
Roger? Yeah, yeah. Okay, but, all right.
I think you might want to say in there, too, that this would bring Neary offline.
I agree.
Okay, maybe Al and I will,
This would close Neary School.
Yeah, I mean, just so that
That's
people
cool.
understand the, like,
The ramifications.
Neary's not them becoming, 5 and 6 or something.
yeah. And then,
In other words, phase one of the study for both schools?
Sorry, we're still on Article 2, right?
Yep. Go up.
Yeah, right there. So this article proposes funding feasibility study of the Brown County Urban School and American Elementary School feasibility and structure conditions. Yes. So is everyone going to make the logical leap that phase one of the study includes the analyses for both schools?
I mean, you could say, yeah, building system capability of both schools.
Say for both schools.
Building capacity analysis of both schools, comma, and
You got land issues for both schools.
Yeah, just, and after, at the end of the sentence, where it says, and land and wetland surveys,
For both schools.
yeah, comma, for both schools.
Marguerite's gonna tell you a comma doesn't
Yeah,
go there.
that's just, I was reading your mind, that's what you're gonna say.
It's coming up in a balloon over my head, okay. And phase two.
Okay, and then, Article 3. I think I know what you're gonna say. Okay, this article proposed to fund a feasibility study for Finn to evaluate renovation expansion to accommodate pre-K through 3. I think that's all.
And I think you would say Neary goes offline here.
Yep.
Okay, all right. It's, all right.
Can I just make a point on, back to Article 1?
Yeah, you gotta, sorry if you, sorry.
Mark Davis, 13 Schuyler Drive. On Article 1, we never did wetland surveys. We know where the wetlands are, but we never flagged them. So I think we need, just to be specific, we need that language up in that one as well. So at the end of the day, if all of them pass, you're going to get flagged wetlands on all 3 sites. So you'll know exactly where they are and how they impact it.
So can you scroll back to 1?
Because we never got to that detail at the level we brought it.
So land and wetlands surveys.
1. There you go, almost.
I think it's up top. Associated planning, architectural, and engineering work, and then in the Article 2, you have wetlands analysis. We just need to make sure it's done there in Article 1.
Okay, so you would say maybe an architectural, comma, engineering work and wetlands analysis?
Yes. Thank you.
Just have a general question on all the articles.
Yeah.
So you have select board recommendation and advisory committee recommendation. Do you want school committee recommendation on the warrant?
I think so. I think this is really important that.
I think
So
that's a good idea.
we haven't specifically voted other than our preferred option, which would
Yep.
be 1.1, I guess. So I'm happy to take care of that now so that you have it, or we have our regular meeting on the 11th, and we could do it then.
Well, I see, okay.
I don't want to, I don't want to take up
Yeah,
your
let's go
time,
with
but
9:41, I say,
Mark
I
has an
think it's very
opinion.
important though, Chelsea.
I
and
think
we
it is
need
too.
to get Mr. Zeno to
Okay,
emphasize
all
Let's
right.
do it, let's just get it over with,
Agreed.
right?
all right.
Sorry, I missed you want me to do it now?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
Roger is raising his
All
hand
right.
here. You want to?
So I have to do, Laura and Alan still on?
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh,
so,
Does Roger want to?
you want to speak first? All right.
So, just another comment on Article 1. I hope I'm not speaking to deaf ears, Al, but I really think you need to get rid of the cap. And I'll tell you why. Okay, I mean, I'm going to go back to what Tim said and something Chelsea said. It's going to do the town a disservice to have that option with a cap. Because, you need to roll back, please. Article 1. first of all, you're asking for a specific performance here. You're saying that this plan has to address necessary improvements to extend the life, including these things. So, Al, you're worried about scope creep. I think that Tim's comment is really an excellent one. You find out what somebody is recommending is the minimum to basically achieve this specific performance, and then you manage each one of those items and whatever that cost comes in at.
Well-
And the idea that, well, wait a minute, maybe we could change the 15 million at town meeting to 60, well, you wouldn't know what to change it to anyway, because you still have the same problem, because by the time you get to town meeting, you don't know anything, about this estimate. So I think it's important to consider what Tim said. And I don't want you to forget what Chelsea said about the bus contract we did. You will likely not have some good firms even bid on this, because they're gonna look at that second one and they're gonna say, well, we really can't, offer a feasibility on necessary improvements for this cap. So you're not even gonna get some bids from some companies that you want. So you leave this artificial cap in here, you're really doing the town a disservice. So that's my 2 cents.
Well, what if, Al, I know you have very strong feelings about this. What if in Article 2 you had, instead of a cap, a target cost?
In Article 1, option 2, yeah.
I have very little confidence that the town, the way we are organized and the way we operate, has effective scope creep management tools. I don't have confidence in that. And
But Al, it's not saying that we have to spend the money, even if it comes back, say, $18 million to a minimal. We still
it
have to
won't come back
vote.
as 18 million,
we
it'll come back as 30.
Okay, but even if it does, we still have to vote it at town meeting. This is,
So I hear you. The answer is no. So we'll just move on. Okay.
Yeah, somebody wants to go and argue this on the floor at town meeting and change that number or eliminate it, so be it, but,
Well, I would certainly hope that Article 1 doesn't fail because that's in there. That's a risk too, that somebody doesn't want that in there. They're fine with everything else, but they vote no just because that's in there and the whole thing fails. Boy, that would be a shame.
Chelsea, do you want to?
Yep, so I'm going to try to make this easy and just make a motion for school committee, unless anybody has something they want to say. Go ahead.
Denise, could
Denise,
you-
come on up.
Maybe using the philosophy Mr. Davis had, and take option 1, and then pull individual bullets out of that, which you can eliminate to get to Al's point, if the number gets too high. Do you see what I'm saying?
No.
What he was trying to say, correct me if I'm wrong.
I understand what he's trying to say.
So what he was saying, and if we could do that.
I have no confidence that that would work, none. I went through the police station building process, and our ability to push back against architects is non-existent. It really is. The spec creep, it's already started, and it will be relentless, and it will be supported by the architectural community. We just don't have the tools, and that this is the only tool I've been. Like Tim, I've managed large projects. You need tools to push back against spec creep, and we don't have them, and that's how you get very, very expensive tunes. I'm trying to get something that, frankly, I think will pass at town meeting. I don't think one of these 60 or 70 or 80 million dollar projects, which is what all of these others are, will pass at town meeting. I do not believe they will go. And because the tax impact is terrible, particularly on our senior community. Yeah, I'm sorry, everybody here has been, hammering on me, I'm gonna hammer back for a minute, okay? I don't think these things are gonna pass at town meeting when you come back with a $60 million project, because we had an example where we had something that was gonna have an impact of $60 or $70 million, and it failed spectacularly. I believe that demonstrating a less expensive option is absolutely critical. Now, if somebody else has got a good plan for how to come up with a real, less expensive option, the impact on this is about $300 on a $900,000 house. You do the math when you start getting up to $60 and $70 million, which is where all of these other projects are. And frankly, I'm being generous here. So, I'm focused on getting something through town meeting. I'm focused on trying to get something that we can afford. I am focused on trying to avoid the situation that we are in right now, where we spend $1.5 million on principal and interest on a public safety building, and we're starting to cut police officers. We're cutting police officers because we can't afford them. We can afford $1.5 million on public safety building. It's a real nice building, I agree. But I don't want to be in a position where we spend $60 or $70 or $80 million on a new school, and then we have to start laying off teachers. Sorry, that's where I am. And somebody else has got a better way of managing spec creep, and it's not putting cranky Al Hamilton in charge, because he tried that, and it failed miserably. So that's why I've got my foot down hard on a budget number.
It's just very difficult to understand that that number is going to be a valid number when it's based on very old information, Al.
Well,
That's
first
my
off, it's
concern.
not based on very old. We took the SOTEC numbers for the roof. We took the SOTEC numbers for ADA, which is more than half. We did scale. We went out and looked at fire services for the sprinklers. Came out at $10 a square foot. We used $10 a square foot. The other items in there did come from the Veritech report, and we scaled them up using the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is the Department of Commerce inflators for construction costs for the relevant periods from 21 to 25. Then we used 21.5%, oh, sorry, 21.1% for the soft costs, and we used a very, very liberal 25% for contingencies, because we know, Tim and I both know, that these numbers are soft, and so we put in a contingency at 25%. Then for the things that weren't related to the roof and ADA, we added an additional 7% because it'll probably be done in a year. That number came out to $12.8 million. Now, that included more items that were there on the must-have list. So, if I thought that that analysis had come up with a different number, I'd probably go with a different number. But right now, no one can show me data that will demonstrate that a different number is better. But,
I'm quite confident that Mr. Davis and I could put together a number that would look a lot different, but I'm not arguing it. I want this to be done so that, it's either right or wrong, but I don't want to see Article 1 fail because that $15 million is in there. So maybe, someone can split them into two parts, but having that, and I still say that number's arbitrary because 15's been floated, and then now it is 15 that you ended up adding up to 15. So it makes no sense to me to pick a number like that when there are people who have been very involved in the construction of a new school and know what those costs are and are saying it's not the right number. Leave it in there, but I just am really worried that the article, it's
All right,
going to
so-
hurt this article's ability to pass.
So Chelsea, I think you had the floor here of where.
Okay, so, school committee, what is everybody's thoughts about moving this article or saying at town meeting for Article 1? I'm asking what we want print. Article,
School committees.
correct. Do we want to put in the warrant that we support, not support, or at special town meeting?
I would support option one,
Well,
but
it's,
not option two.
well, that's the problem, is it's
Right.
together. So here's my thought, is we put at special town meeting, so that way, hopefully the moderator will ask why the school committee is at special town meeting, and we can explain our support of option one and why we have concerns about option two.
I think that's the best way to go.
Okay,
That's a good
so,
If, sorry, can I ask one question? If, because it does change my concern here. If it said target, does that change anybody's mind instead of exceeds, not to
Yeah,
exceed?
I mean,
It
I
said
think
target
targets-
15 million.
It makes a big difference to me.
targets is a huge difference, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so then Articles 2 and 3, do we want to support or not to support? I'm going to do a motion at the end, but I'm trying to do one motion so that we don't have to do it multiple times, because we have roll call. And if Laura or Alan, you have anything you want to say here, my recommendation would be that we move that we do not support these two articles.
I agree.
I agree with that, Chelsea.
I agree.
Okay. Article 4, support.
Support.
Yeah? Okay.
Chelsea,
Agree.
Yeah.
If the word targets is in front of $15 million, would you support all of Article 1? Would the school committee support all of Article 1?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to move that we change exceeds to targets in Article 1.
I'll second it.
Okay, but Al, you either will support it, we're trying to go forth and get something done at this meeting and not have this fail also. So you can second it, and it sounds like you're just gonna vote against it. You won't support changing that one word to target?
Well, let's
You've
just
got a
vote.
whole lot of people that will support this if that one word changes.
I got a whole lot of people who will support this without, that won't support it with that.
Can we vote?
Guys, $60 million failed. Failed miserably. Failed by 2/3 in one case. Somebody's got to internalize that the town doesn't want to spend $60 million. You know, I've been Johnny One Note on this, and, you know,
Unfortunately, Al, we're representing people who have kids in that building.
I know.
And are going to continue to have kids in that building.
I have
and
a grandchild in that
And
building.
I don't want to argue about what happened in the spring and where that came from, but the school committee needs to make sure that our kids are safe in the building and that we're code compliant. We're not asking for a bells and whistles with anything related to this. These are blocking and tackling of a building. So, you know, this is why we're concerned about this number. And if we get to a point where we hit the 15 million, it's like, oh, sorry, we're not going to be able to do the HVAC system. Like, what does that leave the kids with? So that's the perspective that we're coming from. So I'm not interested in going tit for tat with you. I think you guys do what you want to do, but we're ready to make a motion on the articles, and I think this is best suited for town meeting floor.
Well, we did move in second to vote on targets.
I'm not, who made the motion, who seconded it?
I moved it
She
and
made the
Al
motion.
seconded.
She made the
Al
motion
seconded it.
To use
Al
the word
seconded it?
targets.
Okay, so just to be really clear here,
She wants to place next to the word cost.
no, I think what you would do is instead of, you'd say option 2, you would take out, and this is the part Al's not gonna like, shall
Targeted
not.
estimated cost of $15
Shall-
million.
Shall have a
Targeted estimated cost.
target estimated cost,
Yes.
and you would take out the word not.
It should be targeted not to exceed, so it should have a targeted.
He's right.
That's what I meant. Take out exceeds and put in targets.
Wait a minute, so not to exceed that, you don't want to say,
Yeah,
yeah,
not to exceed.
Target estimated cost not to exceed $15 million.
No, I would say option 2 shall not have an estimated cost that, no, shall have,
Let me take it, can I?
shall have an estimated cost that targets 15 million. We're all tired, but what I wanted to say is, you can go above 15, but you should aim for 15.
No, that's the idea, but so then you would say.
Option 2 shall have a targeted cost that will not exceed. 15 million. That's the wording I think you want.
No.
Is that right?
Marguerite, that's a pretty good compromise if Al will vote for that. It can still go above it, but we said try not to, really hard. Tim?
Option 2 shall have an estimated cost that targets approximately $15 million.
No, not to exceed.
No, once you do not to exceed, it's the same thing as not to exceed.
It's target, though. This one, the way it's written right now, it is not to go over 15 million, period. The other one's saying you have a target not to go above this. So like you're essentially saying, this is my budget for what we think we could afford. Try not to go over that, but it doesn't say you can't go over that. It says
We need
that
a
that's.
lawyer.
I agree with him.
It's still giving, I'm in the boat here where Al and I have gone back and forth on this, and I'm okay with a slightly higher number as long as it's still around this $15 million cap or target here. I think that we need a fiscally conservative option that fixes all of the things we talked about. So if nothing else, the building is at least usable and we are over this conversation. So I want that as a minimum threshold. That's what I'm looking for, and I'm supportive of Al's, and we did the math. On the math today that we know about, which needs to be funded in this article, I can't stress it enough. You have to fund it in this article at town meeting so we can sure everything up. If we don't fund it, we can't know. But on what we do know from experts, a $12.3 million number is where everything adds up with inflation. So if we ask the school to maybe put a heat map together and say, you know, maybe the gym or this or that, where can they fall in red, green, yellow, like of what falls into this deferred maintenance path, you know, of things that we're trying to do, maybe the kitchen.
Building code, though.
Okay, so what's our,
Right?
what's our language?
This will
Sorry,
let us
sorry,
find out
sorry.
what people,
Sorry, the dotted
none
line.
of us know what people want today.
The-
We don't know.
the-
This will let us find out whether they want the short version of this, as little as you can do to keep the school open, or they want a real renovated school that's going to last for a long time.
But I'm gonna
Okay,
add the
so
building code.
Option 2 shall target a cost that does not exceed $15 million.
Yes, that's it.
Option 2 shall target
Shall have a cost not to,
a cost that does not exceed.
But Chelsea, to your point about building code, the question I would have is the
15.
kitchen is a warming kitchen today. Building code, as I understand it, does not dictate that we have to make that a cooking kitchen. If we do, then
I mean,
that's.
I'm not an expert in this, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But that's my
our-
question different,
Our
right?
goal, so I don't disagree with the approach, and obviously anybody from school committee can correct me. I don't disagree with having a full-blown renovation and improvements to the program, blah, 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 versus whatever the limited that we have to get done.
Yep.
I'm okay with looking.
And let the town decide
Let the town
which one they
decide.
want.
I don't care. I'm just not supportive of looking at a max of what we could put in, what we can put into it, and then missing on things that are required that we do. I just think I have a fundamental issue with that.
Yeah.
And maybe the 15 million, we're gonna get everything done, and this is a non-issue, and we'll have a good option to bring forward. I fundamentally don't support it just because we're not experts in this field, and we don't know the 15 million is.
Okay, so would the school committee support Article 1 if it said, option 2 shall target a cost that does not exceed $15 million?
Yes. We can target it. It doesn't mean that.
Yes.
I think
That
Chelsea
can be
put
the
it-
threshold.
As you're thinking about it, I think the way Chelsea put it really well. Look, there's very different views on this in the town. If this is gonna come down to, we take a step in March to set up a later discussion about different renovation options, here's a more comprehensive option, and here's something that's more fiscally conservative,
Right.
limited, we have accomplished something.
Yes.
An alternative, maybe says the same.
We don't have to have the whole debate about which one right now.
Right.
Option 2 shall
But-
have a
Sorry, can I jump in?
maximum targeted cost of $15 million.
Well, that's more restrictive than this.
Maximum targeted cost.
No, you don't put maximum anymore, it's got a targeted.
Target a cost that does not exceed 15
I
million.
think they all accomplish the same
Target.
thing. When you put target and 15 million, I think the points are the same.
Okay, so do you want,
Well, you guys have a motion now. I
okay,
didn't
so
do a
we've got a
motion.
motion,
We got to
so
vote on our
I'll,
Okay.
okay, I will guide the discussion on this, all right? So the language, option 2 shall target a cost that does not exceed, all right, you see that? So, motion's been made and seconded. First, Tim, how do you vote?
I'm a yes.
Okay, a yes?
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
I'm a yes.
Thank you, Al.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I think Alan has his hand raised. So
Okay,
after
you-
that,
you
I'll make
call
a
him.
motion.
All
Alan,
right.
go ahead.
I don't think the wording's meaningfully different. So, I mean, we're talking about option 1, the comprehensive. We're trying to establish, right, the responsible, option 1's like a responsible renovation, right? That with in mind what happened in the spring. Option 2 is bare minimum.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the wording that just got added, while I think is an improvement, doesn't meaningfully change the fact that option 2 is just, this is what we have to do.
Well, it's what we have to do, and we can still look at the number if it's above 15 million. That's the difference.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to make a motion that the school committee support Articles 1 and 4 and do not support Articles 2 and 3. Is there a second? Seconded by Roger. Roll call vote. Alan?
Yep.
Laura?
Yes.
Denise?
Aye.
Roger? And Chelsea's aye. Okay, 5-0.
Part of it is just that it's past 10 o'clock. We've still got a couple other things on the agenda. We have to go to
Important
executive
things.
session.
Yeah.
I think, so we support Article 1, right? Okay, I say, do we, let's take a vote. I move that we support at town meeting Article 4.
Second.
All those in favor? How about, do you want to just say at town meeting for Article 2 or 3? I feel like, no.
I want to take a vote on it now.
Okay.
I move that the select board support Article 2.
Second.
All right, so, all those in favor? All those opposed? Okay,
So it was 3-2, 2-3?
it was 1 vote yes, 4 votes no.
Okay.
Okay, I move that the select board support Article 3.
Second.
All those in favor? All those against? Okay, 1-4. I think, I don't know if I'd ever get to this point, but we have completed the drafting and the voting.
So we can
Oh,
sign.
well, I think we have completed the drafting and the voting on this warrant, is that right? So then, I don't think we need, do you think we need another meeting to sign, or we could just,
But don't
you
we
think
have
we
to
could,
do final language before we can sign it?
That's what we just did.
Vanessa has it. Yeah.
we could,
I move that the board approve the warrant article as amended, the warrant as amended.
Second.
all right, all those in favor? Okay,
now
so
we can
then
sign it.
the signing of it, I know we're putting you right on the spot here. All it is you just do, break out the signature page as a separate page, just go to review, accept all changes, and stop tracking. And then we'll just come in
And sign.
tomorrow and just
Why
sign. We
can't
don't need to have
Vanessa go
another
down
meeting.
and print it right now while we're doing the executive session?
That's a good idea,
Can
okay.
you stand it, Vanessa?
All right, so now do you want to? Yeah. Oh, you're right, we do need to finish, yeah,
I thought we did.
okay, all right.
Cooler heads prevail.
Andrew?
Okay.
I think we have a resident who wishes to speak.
Yeah, it's really, I just want to keep going, really, so is it like just third, like really short?
I mean, it's not, I'm not asking you to change anything, if that's what you're asking. It's more of a
All right, this is, all right, so this is the last comment, just because I've reached, like, we just got to move on, but,
Okay.
okay.
Kelly Conklin, 17 Sadie Hut. So I want to name what I believe is the most critical thing that we approach our decisions when we're talking about our schools. When the select board makes a recommendation to the town, it should be unified. Whether you ultimately recommend funding all of the feasibility studies or just one, you guys are at your strongest when you speak with one voice. We saw this in other town matters recently, when you presented a unified position in the group letter published on my Southborough for the legislation related to the Costco. The community responded. It passed fundamentally flying colors, right? There's no arguing that. In contrast, it seems that over the last couple decades, there's one overlying theme, and it is unmistakable. This question of what to do with our schools is cyclical. It returns again and again and again, all the way back to 2009. And there's so much energy spent about how we got here, who's to blame, why are specific buildings in the conditions they're in. I think we all just kind of need to acknowledge the harder truth, and that Southborough is getting in its own way as an electorate. We're funding feasibility studies after feasibility studies so that professionals can give us expert analysis, and then as a town, we're deciding that we're not prepared to act on what we've asked them to produce for us, what we've paid for. 2022, we spent $950,000 to fund the feasibility study for the new Neary. And yet we're back.
So I think we have, that just took a tremendous amount of work to get the, so we do have a unified position on Article 1.
Yes, my
I hear
bigger
you,
concern, and I promise, I'm getting to the point.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Andrew. So my biggest concern is we just need a long-term plan, a long-term vision. So in theory, if Article 1 fails and we're just left with the other two feasibility studies, there's a chance that they're not feasible, which leaves us with a roof on Neary, if I'm understanding that correctly. So again, we need a unified voice for Article 1, which thank you guys for doing that. We also need to educate the town on why this needs to happen. And then what is the long-term goal? Because this is going to buy us some time until in, I think, 2060, we have 3 schools that will simultaneously need major investment. So we need to be upfront with voters now that.
Okay, I agree. Okay. We need to just move on for the agenda.
Thank you, Kim.
All right. Thank you.
She wants to
Can I
adjourn.
adjourn?
Yes.
Okay, so I move that the school committee adjourn at, oh, my watch is dead. What time is it?
10:10.
At 10:10. Is there a second? Second. All right, roll call vote. Alan?
Yep.
Laura? Laura's putting someone to bed. Denise? Roger? Aye. And Chelsea's aye. Thank you.
Thank you,
I hope we don't go
Chelsea.
too much longer.
Thank you, Denise. Thank you, Roger.
We need to talk
Thank
about
you, Greg.
presentations.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I still have it.
Absolutely. We need-
Mark, thank
that'll
you,
be-
too.
And we'll be in touch about that. Okay, the one item left under other matters is discussion of the annual town meeting warrant, April 11th.
Can
This
we
is a
punt that?
super rough draft. I suggest it's 10:11. We've got significant things to talk about in executive session. People
Yeah.
okay with just punting this to the next town meeting?
I will say, I think that warrant is going to be full. A lot of stuff on it by the time we're done.
I think so too. I mean, I was talking with Andrew about this, and most of the things on here, I think the things have either been requested or they're annual articles.
I didn't say there's a lot of complications, there's just a lot of stuff.
Well, how about this? Maybe we just take 5 minutes. I wrote down a couple things that I think we should include in the placeholder list.
Okay.
Okay, one is, Mr. Cundiff recently proposed some language about, basically, you're penalized if during a snowstorm, you said like this, you throw your snow back into the street. From what I've seen, I think that's worth talking about So maybe we just put that, not saying support or, we decide to include or not, but let's just put that in pencil on the list. And then, I don't know how you draft something like this, but in the minutes that we just approved, when Jason Malinowski was before us and he was talking about, capital articles, he suggested maybe some language where, let's say you've got a series of capital articles passes and then bids come in and they're a little bit different, that gives the town administrator
The right to move
Yeah,
the money
move
around
between
as long as the total
appropriations.
is not more than what got appropriated.
Yeah. You want me to say that again so you can write down like
So this-
language
this-
that'll,
This is a
If you
bylaw.
got a car
Yeah,
that comes
bylaw
in
change.
50 and one comes in at 60, and you approved 110, you can still do them both, even though you,
and if we haven't done it already, we should send out an email, from you, Mark, or Vanessa, to say, hey, any department, if you have a bylaw or board or committee, if you have a bylaw, something you want in the annual town meeting warrant that you want us to consider, please send it to us by,
Yesterday.
So the
Yeah.
pit.
No, quite
so-
seriously.
well,
Yeah.
If they haven't sent it to us by now, the answer is
The
no.
pitfall of doing that is we really have got about 6 weeks to close this up.
I understand.
Okay.
And I don't,
So placeholders.
I'm not going to make it to do what we got to do if we don't cut this off. I'm surely not going to make it. Make sure the cemetery committee is on there too, so we,
yeah, that's a good
That
idea,
one?
so.
So that would be amending this, further amending the special act.
no, that's not the way to, so TBD, we'll talk about it. That's
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
way-
okay, all right.
That's not the way that Bill is going. Tim Litt's given a very good suggestion, which he, I think, likes.
Okay.
Should we move to, I'm ready to take the, I think
Please
we're
just cut it off.
yeah,
I mean,
we're
I'm
gonna-
serious.
I
I've
know.
been up since
Don't
3
worry,
o'clock this
don't,
morning.
don't worry,
Oh my God,
okay.
I know.
I move that the board enter into executive session and not return to open session for the following: to review and approve executive session meeting minutes from January 6, 2026, exemption 7, and 2, to discuss contract negotiations with the finance director and DPW superintendent. Exemption 3 is the chair has determined that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the town's position.
Second.
All those in favor? All those
One,
opposed?
one, two.
You're opposed to entering?
No, I'm sorry, I
executive
was
session?
just late agreeing.
Yeah, roll call vote.
Oh, we need to do a roll call vote, that's right. Dennington, aye.
Landry, aye.
Cook eye.
Fling eye.
Hamilton, aye.